Hello there, everyone. Welcome to another Creation Science Theater. As always, am your host, Doc Dino, and tonight we have a different stream than usual. We'll be covering a few different topics, mostly having to do with dinosaurs having feathers, evolution, geology, fossils, stuff like that. Kind of a little variety pack, because later this week, there's going to be a stream on another channel that I'll be joining, and I'll get to chat with some creationists who I've had a few issues with for a while, I guess you could say. And I imagine they'll be using these same arguments because, well, they're the same people. So I don't feel like that's too crazy of an assumption. Anywho, we have 4 or 5 videos to get through. We're going to be starting with this one first. This is, did dinosaurs have feathers? Experts respond. If you've been on my channel, or if you've been watching this series at all, then yeah, you know who Standing for Truth is. I'm still gonna cite the video, but well, just because it's always good to cite what you're covering, or at least acknowledge it. Anywho, we'll be going through point by point, and we'll see how up to date they are on their dinosaur knowledge. And let us see here. Hello, Hill Hugger. Hello, Katina. And hello, Damian in the chat. I hope I'm saying your name right. This is an open theater, too. So if anyone wants to hop in, feel free. All I ask is that you not be too rude and, don't talk over anyone. Pretty standard stuff. We'll probably have a couple other people join as the night goes on. We'll just have to see. Might as well begin. Oh, and I will be starting us on 1.5 times speed, just to help us get through everything. So, things might be a little sped up for a bit. I hope that's not that's kind of loud. If y'all would like me to turn it up later or turn it down, feel free to let me know.
And I think it's a good question to ask because it is kind of a hot topic, maybe a controversial.
Okay, maybe go on 1 time speed while Donnie's speaking. So, this is an excerpt from a stream he did with a group of other creationists from another creation organization. They're an Australian/UK branch of, well, creationists, which is less common than here in America, but they still exist. They are from Creation Research. They have some interesting opinions. Interesting opinions on science and society, but we're just covering the science here. So, but just fair warning if you decide to check them out. Oh, and we have an Andrew. Hello. You are muted if you are not aware.
Hey, sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Sorry, it takes a little bit to load, I guess. All right.
Yeah, no problem. How's it going?
I'm doing okay. How about you? See, we're reviewing a video by SFT.
Yeah, that's the first one. I've been worse. I've been better. Felt I could have done better earlier today. Honestly.
Oh, with Jim Bob.
Yeah, I felt like I put my foot in my mouth more than once. I got really nervous being in front of that many people.
Yeah, I had the same feeling when I went on there too, truth be told.
And then also just when you ask a question, it shouldn't go on for 3 or 4 minutes. I watched the clock.
Right.
It's
Yeah, he
so long and rambly.
he has an interesting way of talking and rhetorically answering things. I don't know. It was an interesting exchange for both of us, I guess.
Yeah. I'd like to try again sometime, but I'd have to prepare better. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe if I have a new
Get
job
used
in
to
the
some of his
future
tricks, I
and
guess.
weed becomes legal in Iowa, that might help.
Yeah. Oh, SFT's in the side chat. That's surprising.
Oh, I see. Howdy, Donnie. Yeah, you might not want to watch this because, well, there'll be some spoilers, I guess, for later this week. I'm hoping Joe and Mackay Joe and John, I guess, used both their first names. Hope they have some better arguments than they do here. Because Fiducia is not a good source on this topic.
Oh, they bring up Fiducia? Of course they do.
They love Fiducia.
Creationists all love Fiducia.
Yeah, never mind how almost every other Archosaur paleontologist disagrees with him. We gotta follow this one guy.
Well, because he says what they want to hear, basically.
Yeah.
So is this? You said this was prep for the Is this for the open mic? That's when is that again? Or is this like a separate debate, or what is this for again? Remind me.
Yeah, it's kind of prep for this Thursday.
Oh, it's this Thursday. Okay.
Yeah, just like refreshing myself on their arguments and their point of view, and helping use it to build up my own counterpoints ahead of time.
Yeah, that's always a good thing to do beforehand.
Yeah. Oh well. Snake evolution is an interesting topic. And limestone and polystrate trees.
I suppose I could.
Beamsy hates the polystrate. Polystrate.
Yeah,
Polystrate or
silly
polystrate?
arguments.
What should you say? They use both.
I tend to say polystrate trees. I don't know. I guess different people pronounce it different ways.
Yeah, they get on Beamsy's nerves.
Oh, they get on my nerves too, and I don't know why creationists keep talking about them. Well, actually, I do know, but you get the point.
Because they conflate layers with layers.
Yeah, pretty much.
For anyone who's not familiar, polystrata trees are quote-unquote trees that go through multiple layers of rock strata. They tend to go through what would be equivalent to a few decades or possibly centuries of buildup. But the way creationists talk about it, they make it sound like they're going through like an entire formation and into the next.
Well, it's yeah.
Does not happen.
It's always interesting to me how they think that conventional geology is still uniformitarianism, essentially, and at the same time also apply those same that same uniformitarian line of reasoning to the own arguments they make, like lunar recession or buildup of salt in the oceans, etc. Like, yeah, we know we're past Charles Lyell at this point. Like, let's actually talk about what geology is about nowadays.
Yeah. Turns out the past is a mix of very slow, gradual processes and sudden, catastrophic processes, just like today.
Exactly.
But given enough time, they kind of average out.
But here's the point: we have evidence of both things occurring today, so we know they occurred in the past. That's the thing that they often miss. We do still have a framework for this called actualism is the technical name for it.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I am going to press play. We have a few videos to go through, so
Awesome.
well, hopefully not have a 5-hour stream. Good night. Well, I'm yawning already. This bodes poorly.
Controversial one currently in the world of young Earth creation. Did any of the dinosaurs, specifically one that you pointed to, John, in your presentation, such as Velociraptor, have feathers? Actually, if I could add a little bit more details to that, I've heard many, some even in the young Earth creation camp, that would look to Sinosauropteryx, and they'll point to the fuzzy filaments that many would purport basically help that specific creature with warmth, but they would consider that a dinosaur with feathers. So what's a good response to that?
Insulation.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, fair enough question, because it is, for some reason, still controversial with young Earth creationists. And I say for some reason as if I don't already know why. Now, what's interesting is a few weeks ago in this series, we covered a couple of creationists who said Velociraptor was just a bird, whereas these creationists say, oh, no, Velociraptor had no evidence of feathers. It was just a dinosaur.
As is often the case in paleontology, the way you can tell something is a transitional fossil is when creationists themselves can't agree on what it is.
Mm-hmm. And I forget if it was on their website or another one, but there was another young Earth creationist site I was on earlier today when, looking for stuff to cover. They had Velociraptor as a definite dinosaur, and then Zhenwan Long as just a big bird. Are you familiar with Zhenwan Long?
That's another dromaeosaurid species, isn't it?
Yes, it is a dromaeosaur, roughly the same size as Velociraptor. It just
Very
has the feather
interesting.
impressions.
Very
But
interesting.
skeletally, they're almost identical. Yeah, see? Same
Right.
size. Like about
Pretty
2-ish
much.
meters
Yeah.
long.
That is very interesting. I don't know what else to say. That's just very interesting. How they do that. How they cut that.
What is consistency? That's something the trees talk about, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess so.
Sorry, that was a bad Lord of the Rings reference.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't get that.
What the trees have to talk about other than the consistency of squirrel droppings? It's that Gimli line from Lord of the Rings. My brain
But to
works in
answer the
mysterious
question
ways.
here, yeah, Velociraptor did have feathers, and the reason we know is because the forearms have quill knobs on them. So they didn't just have these integumentary type hair-like feathers. They actually had veined, in some cases, asymmetrical feathers. They weren't used for flight, of course, because they were small enough and their arms weren't big enough for that, but I digress.
Mm-hmm. And I'm actually curious. I think we have. Well, actually, we definitely have Zhenwan Long. Ulna, which the ulna is where you find those quill knobs on
Right.
birds and dinosaurs. So I'm just wondering if it has quill knobs that are similar to those on Velociraptor, when it's already the same size as Velociraptor and skeletally nearly identical. It'd be really weird if the quill knobs on Zhenwan Long or if the quill knobs on Velociraptor didn't indicate feathers.
Right. And you said this was the Mackay website that cut this arbitrary line between them?
I think it was Mackay's website. I went through a
Okay.
few different websites earlier.
But it was some creationist website at least.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh. Let's see. Here's the publication in Nature. Let's see. Ulna.
What's interesting, of course, is they did have feathers on their forearms, as evidenced by these quill knobs. There's always the creationist slogan, talking point of what good is half a wing? Well, obviously, these creatures had what you might call half a wing, so they were useful for something.
Yep, and Katina here basically hit it right on the head. Even short wings massively improves your ability to brood. Even if they're not fully developed flight feathers, like just long hair-like feathers, like you see on ostriches and emus, they really help with incubating the eggs.
Well, we even have that for some Oviraptorosaur.
Yep, we have it for Oviraptor itself.
Oh yeah. So case in point.
Let me see if I can find the really famous one.
Oh yeah, that's such a good fossil.
Really, it's fabulous. I think it's still Oviraptor. It might be Psittapodi now, but I could be wrong.
I'm pretty sure it's Psittapodi, but yeah, I'm not sure either. I've usually heard it described that way.
I think we have found Psittapodi on NS too, actually, now that I think about it.
Yeah, we might have found it for both of them. Wouldn't surprise me.
Okay, so this is a Psittapodi on screen.
Ah, okay.
Oh, and then apparently we have a second specimen of Psittapodi on its eggs.
How cool is
so
that?
We have two for that animal.
At least we know it wasn't a fluke then.
Yeah. And I've talked to, I haven't talked to them about this, but I follow a channel of paleontologists. Brought it up before on this channel, the Skeleton Crew. One of them has worked a ton. Actually, two of them, I think, have worked a ton on Oviraptorosaurs. And I think they say it was likely that the one brooding, based on the evidence we have, was probably a male.
Yeah.
Like
that's how I've often seen it depicted, so that would make sense.
Yeah. Oh, hey, here's a really good illustration here.
Oh, there we go.
Helps with insulating.
Which, again, another seemingly unique bird behavior now found in non-avian dinosaurs.
Yep. Goes really well with those bird-like arms.
Okay, Joe, you're much more qualified now to talk about feathers since you've talked to these guys directly, and perhaps Diane. So, Joe, take it away.
Okay, well, if you're dealing with a creature like Velociraptor, the total amount of feathers that we found on any Velociraptor fossil is 0. There's not even any fuzzy filaments. Even if you wanted to interpret it as the fuzzy filaments.
Okay, pause for a second. Now, why would that be? Maybe because all the feathered dinosaur fossils were finding these fine ash layer deposits, and Velociraptor was finding a coarser sandstone amid a desert, maybe?
No, that's impossible.
How
dare you suggest such a ridiculous idea? We have a ding. Oh, we have a Mr. Anderson. Hello.
Hello. So it's got to be either Mosasaur, Plesiosaurus, Dimetrodon, or Pachycephalosaurus.
Yeah, the link. Oh yeah, you didn't say it, Andrew. What your favorite dinosaur was when you entered, but
Oh.
Mr. Anderson, a few of those aren't dinosaurs.
All but one of them wasn't. That's the troll.
I think the only one that was Pachycephalosaurus.
Correct. Or that's my understanding, anyways. I'll leave that to you.
I think it is. Andrew, what's your favorite dinosaur?
That's tough. Off the top, well, can I give a top three? I guess since he named a few.
Sure.
Well, I've always I've always been intrigued by ornithischians with defensive armor of some sort. So my favorites right now are probably Triceratops, of course, Ankylosaurus, and yeah, those are the two I've been most interested in lately.
I do like Ankylosaurus. Those are Ankylosauroids. They're all cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Are
did,
Ankylosaurus and
history.
Stegosaurus related very closely?
Compared to other
They're
ornithischians, yeah, they're both thyreophorans.
Yeah, they're in. So, bird hip dinosaurs, ornithischians, split into a few big groups. One of the first ones is Thyreophora, which are most of the ones with a big tail club or tail spikes and plates on their back. So they're closer than they are to most other dinosaurs, I guess you could say.
Or most other ones that I would have heard of.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. Rock on. Somebody told me, or I saw this on the internet, and it was like, there are bird hip dinosaurs and lizard hip dinosaurs. And the birds evolved from the lizard hip ones.
Yes.
Bird hip is convergent.
Yeah, it convergently evolved in Maniraptorans, which includes Velociraptor.
There you go.
So second,
Is that, it says ARE. Is that Andrew
the
Cumming? The symbol looks like Andrew Cummings.
Yes.
That's you?
Yeah.
Hey, bud. How you doing?
I'm good. How about you?
You know, I'm just living it up. Just trolling Doc Dino about what, happens to be a dinosaur.
You also seem to have gotten under Donnie's skin a little bit, not to derail things too much.
I have, haven't I?
A little bit.
I've been living in that guy's head rent free.
He has made a few shorts from your guys' exchange, so I think that speaks something.
Yeah, like that's kind of how he got himself into. That's why I crashed his stream there like a couple of days ago. Was he kind of misrepresented one of our conversations, and I was like, should I take this as a challenge? And he's like, whatever you think it should be, man. And I was like, okay. And then, yeah, that's kind of how it worked out. Donnie's interesting. Like, I don't know. I'm trying to, set boundaries with him. And I think it's kind of like he's sort of semi-respects boundaries and understands, like, that there can be a mutually beneficial relationship between two people who don't agree on something if they can interact respectfully enough to make good content, which is, I think, useful.
Yeah, to some extent, yeah, but don't take it too far, obviously.
No, I mean, I've seen enough, of his interactions. I hope that he has, matured since his early
I hope
days,
so too.
but, I'm not going to put my heart on my sleeve, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah, fair enough.
Give people the benefit of the doubt, but don't let them walk all over you.
Right. Just protect yourself. Let them make their mistakes. Treat them with respect, and but don't open yourself up to a world of hurt, kind of thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Be patient, not stupid.
So really quick, I do want to address something in the chat.
Ooh,
So,
Caden,
Caden, yep. I understand the hesitancy, but everyone is welcome on here as long as, you're not an ass. Like, as long as you can be cordial with one another and don't try to overtalk anyone too much, you're welcome. I do not intentionally exclude anyone unless I've been given prior reason to, which there are a couple people where that is a thing, but I
You
have
can
never
wear out your
spoken to
welcome,
you,
but
so
Caden,
that's
you have not done so yet. And I think what
Yeah.
I can say is like, so I've never met Doc Dino or Andrew in person. I have interacted with them on far more hostile streams than this. And even when they're interacting with people they vehemently disagree with, they're very respectful. So I think
well, thank you.
we could probably say with a relative degree of confidence, Caden, that regardless of your views on pretty much any topic, I don't think that you're gonna receive a cold reception. Depending on uh, what you say, you might receive some pushback, but it'll be respectful. So you do what you think is right, but that's where I would leave it.
I mean, if
fair enough.
he doesn't feel like coming on today, maybe another stream, perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, if you wanna, feel free. If you don't, totally fine. But
Fair.
let's see. Feathers might be ancestral to archosaurs. Yes.
Yeah, potentially.
I need
At
to
least some
track down the
feather-like
study because I've
structure.
heard of it, but I haven't read of it. But I haven't read it. Apparently, there was a study where they changed a regulatory gene in alligator embryos or crocodile embryos, one of the two, and it caused their scoots to turn into feathers
Oh yeah, that's a good
in
one.
embryo, which is
Yeah, I heard somebody
It-
somebody that I trusted talk about that, but I haven't read the original study.
yeah,
But
and like if their ancestors didn't have feathers, that shouldn't happen.
Which like isn't like this is
Wait,
kind
what?
of the old
Oh, yeah.
idea.
You mean like in the young Earth creation worldview or in the conventional science worldview? Because like in a conventional science worldview, like yes, it should. I thought.
Wait, what was that?
Do you mean like that shouldn't happen in a young Earth creationist worldview, or that shouldn't happen
Oh,
in a conventional worldview? Because in a conventional
uh,
worldview, why couldn't it happen?
So I'm saying, if their ancestors didn't have feathers of some sort,
Yeah.
that should not be able to happen with the simple switch of a regulatory gene.
Why not?
Um, if I understand what I've heard of the paper correctly, it is an inhibitory gene, meaning that it stops what would normally happen from happening.
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe. I mean, the thing is that like
humans have stuff
when
like
it comes to like scales and skin and feathers and fur, are all variations of the same gene, right? And it just depends on when you switch it on and when you switch it off. So like
Pretty
any
much.
mutations in that regulatory gene or that suite of regulatory genes could produce wildly different effects, and one of them might be a feather-like structure. And it doesn't necessarily mean that that feather-like structure has to have ever arisen in any previous animal. All that it has to mean is that when that regulatory sequence arises, that's what it produces, right?
That's a fair point.
It can be. So I know something like this has been done in chickens before too.
Yeah.
Do you know those chickens that have feathery feet
Yep.
rather than scaly feet?
Yep.
They have a very similar regulatory gene switched off because the scales on birds, or their scoots rather, are modified feathers.
Yep.
So,
Or another way to say it is
flipping-
their feathers are modified scoots.
no, the scoots
Aren't
are
the scoots the
feathers.
ancestral condition?
So scales and scoots are two different things. They form in different ways.
Oh, okay.
Feathers are modified scales, and scoots are modified feathers in birds. But since changing a similar regulatory gene in crocodilians turns their scoots into feathers, it suggests that their scoots are also derived feathers. If that makes sense.
Sorry, I was reading something else. Say that again.
So
You're saying that. Sorry, I got that a feather is a modified scale, but a scoot is a modified feather that looks like a scale,
yes,
but it's actually a modified feather.
yes, it
Yeah.
is a modified feather in birds, at least. I'm not before this. I'm not sure if we were certain that was the same in crocodilians, but considering flipping this regulatory gene keeps the feathers as feathers rather than scoots, suggests it was the same for crocodilomorphs. And it would help the situation that pterosaurs also had feathers, like dinosaurs.
Or, well, at least feather-like structures.
From what
They're
I've
called
heard,
pycnofibers.
they've been called pycnofibers for a while, but there is a recent push to just call them feathers because
All right.
they
Hey,
appear to
Oh,
have
okay.
grown the same way and they are almost indistinguishable from the feathers we see in dinosaurs.
I'll have to change my terminology then.
And that is coming from that Skeleton Crew channel, which, again, if anyone's interested in learning about dinosaurs and prehistoric animals, check them out. They're great. I love them.
oh, this isn't
Learned
the
a
right
lot.
paper. This is just an article. Sorry.
Yeah, I found an article on it. I'm gonna put that in a
Here's the topic.
sidebar
Here's the
to read
paper.
more later.
Multiple
For
regulatory
now, we
modules are
appear to
required for
have a
scale to
paper.
feather conversion.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Speaking.
Welcome, welcome. That said, that was fun tangent. I'm gonna hit play. Like I said, I got to read more about this later, but I got a few videos I want to go through tonight.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I only have a limited amount of time, so if you want to
Yeah.
talk about the stuff that we were going to talk about, we should do that at some point.
yeah, let's hear some of their evidence first.
Its feathers. So with Velociraptor, that's that, and it's also the same with many of the other sort of macro dinosaurs. So you'll find that there's a current trend to
Macro
depict T-Rex
dinosaurs,
kind of covered.
seriously.
Yeah, by that he just seems to mean anything bigger than most birds, which is weird.
So
The
a lot
Velociraptor is
of
about the size of a bald eagle.
But it can't have feathers apparently.
Covered in downy feathers or fuzzy or something like that. And I first came across this big time when I was listening to a lecture by a fairly now well-known paleontologist, although he wasn't as well-known back then. And he'd just published a new book on the dinosaurs of the UK. Fabulous book, really well researched. And many of his depictions of the larger theropod dinosaurs in the likes of T-Rex and whatnot were covered in these downy feathers. And I asked...
Okay, I don't recall who he's talking about here, but I have a hunch.
It's probably Steve Brussati, would be my guess.
Maybe it's Trady Explainer.
I was thinking Darren Naish, but
Ah,
could be. Because he is British. And I know he talks about feathers a ton.
Still need to meet Darren.
I've been wanting to reach out to him, honestly.
that'd be awesome.
I don't recall if he ever says who he's talking about here, but that's what I'm guessing. But could be wrong. There's a lot of British paleontologists. Ooh, actually, Rodney, or Tell Me More, just gave me an idea. I can do things. There we go. Google. There we go. So here's a poll. Are dinos fluffy? We'll see how that goes by the end of the stream.
I asked him straight up. I said, as far as I'm aware, there's no fossil evidence of dinosaurs with these feathers. Am I missing something? Why have you depicted all these? He said, no, there aren't any fossil feathers on these larger dinosaurs. But we know that they evolved into birds, so we assume that they had them. So you're really dealing with an assumption upon assumption
I'm
there. And
pretty. Oh, Kayla. I'm pretty confident that's probably not what he said. If I'm gonna take a bet here, probably more nuanced than that.
Oh, did you found the paper, Anderson?
Well, that's the crocodile feathers one there.
Okay.
And so in this section, he's talking about downy feathers specifically, right?
Yes, on larger dinosaurs.
Okay, correct me.
Fine, Caden, no problem. Go ahead.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but haven't we actually found those on a few Tyrannosauroid fossils? So wouldn't that
Yes, we
count
have,
here?
which has me curious what year this was. Because Tyrannus, was that 2012? I think Tyrannus was discovered in 2012 by Zhu et al. That is a 30-foot long Tyrannosauroid that was covered in feathers, and we can say that pretty confidently.
Yeah, didn't they even have one of them? They had some of the pigments. They could tell what color the feathers were.
I'm not sure if that's been done for Tyrannus, but it has been done for other dinosaurs.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
Tyrannus, we've done it for Sinosauropteryx, which they'll talk about a bit later.
Maybe a suggestion if you want to at least try and find the actual fossil for Tyrannus, because I have a feeling creationists, like going back to the other stream, oh, that's just a drawing. That's not actual evidence.
Yeah, no, we see it on the fossil. It's
right.
Pretty blatant on the fossil. Let me see if I can get a good picture, like a good close-up picture. Yep. Here we go. Here's from the original paper describing this dinosaur.
Oh, there you go.
It's got feathers galore all over it. Kind of long, shaggy feathers. It's been inferred to have lived in a kind of cooler climate for the Mesozoic. I think
temperate, relatively speaking.
And then it's got all these little pits on it, and those are
yeah.
like feather, like those pits are like for the rooting of feathers, right?
On the head?
Yeah.
No, that is. So this is a Tyrannosauroid. Particularly, it's a group of tyrannosaurs called proceratosaurs. A lot of them have really big, really holy crests on their noses. It's kind of a distinguishing feature. It's really just a big, holy crest structure. The feathers are found basically just all around.
Oh, so it's a row of, you can see them on Velociraptor arms, right? They're like a row of bumps. They're identical in size and shape.
These aren't those.
That's something different. Sorry about that.
Yeah, these are different.
Yeah.
No, it's,
All right,
it's
well,
fine. It's a fair question.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying you're fine. Like that's a fair question to ask.
Oh yeah, no, I'm just showing my ignorance.
It's not your ignorance. You're curious about it. That's great.
Well,
Yeah.
those things go together, right?
I
Sometimes.
suppose.
I don't know everything either, but I love learning.
There you go.
Yep.
As long as you love learning, I don't have a problem with it.
That's right.
And it does show you that creationists are often accused of being, having presuppositions or being biased. And yes, we do have presuppositions, and yes,
Anyway, I want to connect it back to this. So that you're showing we do have large feathered dinosaurs, and Eutyranus is not the
Right.
only one. It's just the most prominent example.
Right. Is there any way to turn up the volume slightly relative to
Oh, sure.
your speech docket is a little?
It sounded
Yeah.
really loud to me earlier, so I turned it down. But
Okay.
fair enough.
If the audience says it sounds too loud now.
We'll see if they complain.
Yeah.
a scientist who's ever done any science, right? It's part of human nature. But it does show you how determined some people are, how blind some people are, even in the midst of literally lacking any evidence of feathers
Well, is
on
it
these
the
larger creatures.
calling the kettle black there, huh?
Yeah, a little bit. That's a Scientific American article.
It is, but I'm sure we can find the original paper. It's got a good picture of in it, anyways, of what the scientist who discovered it called. It's a close relative to Velociraptor, which is specific, specifically relevant here. You can see the splay of the feathers from the wings in the stone, right? And he refers to it as a fluffy feathered poodle from hell.
I mean, yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Right. And so it's
yeah,
like
this
you
is,
can see the feathers like in the rock, you can see them.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
and you can see this is where I got the thing about the the quill stumps in the bone, and like, so if it comes specific, if it's specifically with respect to like Velociraptor, it's like, okay, like, look here, this is technically Zhangguan Long, which is like a species of Velociraptor, right? Like, or close cousin,
relative.
Yeah, it's like it's a Chinese version of Velociraptor,
More or less, yeah.
Right. So it's like, yes, right. Like, look here, here you go.
Yeah, we mentioned this. We mentioned Zhen Wenlong at the start of the stream, but hey, cool! You found it independently. It's a really,
if you didn't
really good
believe us
example.
before, here you go.
Yeah, like, why should this thing have feathers and Velociraptor not? When this thing is actually slightly bigger than Velociraptor.
I mean, look at the bottom left corner there. You can clearly see the sickle claws.
Yep. Big old claws.
Yeah. It's like for all intents and purposes, it's a Velociraptor. And here's the actual scientific article. Just in case.
Yep.
Large, short-armed, winged dromaeosaurid, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
look, it's not a Velociraptor; it's a dromaeosaurid, which is like it's a Velociraptor. Okay, it's for all intents, for our purposes here in the debate, it's a Velociraptor. But technically, it's
for all
not
intensive purposes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it, look, it's a Velociraptor. Okay.
Yeah, dromaeosaurids they're the speedy, agile, sickle-clawed, feathered dinosaurs, more or less.
Yeah.
Which, funny enough, do not appear to be the closest relatives of modern birds.
Yeah.
Even though they are startlingly close.
Yeah, pretty close.
Yeah. So there you go. You can keep those in your back pocket.
Mm-hmm. And I guess while we're talking about large dinosaurs that have feathers, It's a bit smaller than Utyrannus, but just a sec. But there is
What
a
are we? Why are we
therizinosaur.
letting why do we care whether or not they're large or not? All I
I'm
care
not
about is
sure.
whether
Because
they're
they're
dinosaurs.
specifically saying that large feathered dinosaurs don't exist.
Okay,
Yeah.
but so then is he saying that small feathered dinosaurs do exist?
Yeah, and I
Oh, he's
guess
going to get to that.
therefore they're birds, I guess.
Well, I mean, that's all I really care about. Like, you know, if you want to say that large feathered dinosaurs don't exist, like, I mean, I guess, like, you know, I don't really like, I do care, but first I want to get this nailed down. Do we agree that feathered dinosaurs, simpliciter, do exist? Right? Because if you only want me to use large feathered dinosaurs and you're actually saying that all feathered dinosaurs don't exist, and I got a whole bunch of really good examples of small feathered dinosaurs existing, I want to know whether or not you think feathered dinosaurs existed, period. Is it just the large thing that we have an issue with? Or is it
That's
the dinosaur
fair.
thing we have an issue with?
That's fair. If I recall, they do go with the angle that a lot of what we call feathered dinosaurs are really just birds.
Yeah.
Right. So velociraptors, are those dinosaurs or not?
Well, apparently those are dinosaurs.
Okay, well, they had feathers. Let's talk
That's
about
the
that. Let's talk
problem
about whether
here.
velociraptors and similar creatures had feathers. I'm going to tell you they did. Are you going to disagree with that?
It's going to be fun to be on that stream with you. Like I imagine you'll just like go after them with question after question after question, and they'll say no, and I'll say yes.
Well, I mean, that's kind of, you know, it's not fair for you to like jump in, but you know, what I'm going to say is that, look, I put it to you that like, if I ask Doc in a second here, he's going to say yes. Are you telling me that he's a liar or that he's wrong? Because this is your chance to tell us that that's what you think. Because I'm going to go and get that evidence from him in a second. Right now, I'm talking to you. So you tell me.
That might actually be a fair strategy, actually.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it you know, I'm ripping it straight from like rules of fairness that evolved in courts over periods of, you know, centuries to try and make sure that things were, so it makes sense that it might seem fair.
I mean, fair enough. I am no lawyer person.
Yeah. If you want to nerd out, if anybody's interested in the nerd, you know, the law nerd factor of it, what I'm talking about here is the rule in Brown and Dunn.
Is that done with two N's?
It sure is, and Brown's with an E.
Like brownie?
Like BROWNE and DUNN. Brown and Dunn. That's just a rule of fairness that says that if I have a witness up, because like remember in a courtroom setting, right? I'm sorry, this is a complete tangent, but we're in it now, so we're just going to finish it.
That's fine. You're fine.
So in a courtroom setting, you only have one witness on the stand at a time, right? There's no what they call hot tubbing, typically. We'll get into that's another side tangent off the side tangent. But so you're going to be asking, and like let's say for example that the let's say in a criminal trial, I don't do criminal law, but let's imagine in a criminal trial, right? You know, there's a witness, and the witness says that, you know, they saw X, Y, and Z, right? And you know that you're going to be calling a witness that's going to say that never happened, and they couldn't have said X, they couldn't have seen X, Y, and Z, and so they're a liar, right? You have to put that contradiction to that witness when they're on the stand if you want to lead evidence that is going to, you know, impugn their credibility later. Otherwise, you will not be allowed to lead that evidence.
Huh.
Right?
You know,
you can't call somebody a liar unless you do it to their face.
I didn't know there was like a term or whatever for it, but I think that's a thing they do several times in Ace Attorney that I just kind of picked up on after a bit. Like I know it's not anything like real.
I've never played that game, so court, I don't know, but yeah, no, that is a real thing. It's called the rule in Brown and Dunn.
I'm just saying, Ace Attorney is nowhere near realistic. It's
Yeah,
I guess
I don't know. I've heard things.
courtroom comedy.
Yeah.
But they do strangely follow some real legal precedents.
That's always good, right?
Yeah.
That's always good. So, I don't mean to rush you, but what do you think of, like, because I was really interested in hearing what your take was going to be in terms of, like, what your line of attack was going to be with respect to this this guy. Like, what are you hoping to accomplish, and how do you propose to go about it in broad terms?
So, I guess the first, get him to admit that there are non-bird dinosaurs that have feathers. Second, if
Okay.
possible, get him to admit that there is nothing distinguishing birds from dinosaurs, as in they all fit in the category of dinosaur. And then, like, as a
luck
separate
with that.
issue, possibly later on in the stream, since it is a stream about the global flood, I want to try and figure out what evidence he has for a global flood. Because speaking as someone with a geology degree, I have never seen anything like that, and everything I know about geology contradicts that.
Yeah, I mean, the third one, or your final one there, is a quagmire, right? Because, you'll just get him pontificating and you'll be like, no, that's not right. No, that's not right. And you'll go into correction mode. And, whenever you start to get close, he'll spin and he'll be like, well, here's some other evidence. You wanted evidence. Here's some more. Here's some more. Here's some more. Right. You gotta if you want to pin this guy down on anything, you got to pick something small, and you got to focus on that like a rabid Dionychus.
What does a flood deposit look like?
So, I mean, do you want to go in on the flood thing, or do you want to go in on the dino thing? Because, like, the dino thing seems like it's your passion, and I bet you they'll let you do it.
Fair. That is the more important issue. I feel like I can do the flood one without having to prepare too much. Like,
Okay.
just as a separate aside later when the conversation has moved
Yeah,
on
once you
towards
kind
it.
of done your thing and you're just kind of flexing your muscles, right? And you can kind of
Sure.
just, yeah. So let's talk about the dino one then. So, and let's just pick one of those things. So you said, do you want to do the feathers thing, or do you want to do the all birds are dinosaurs period thing? It's easier for
Probably
me to
feathers
control you
first.
for
Get them to admit that there are feathered dinosaurs.
You're only going to get to do one of those two things, because you're only going to have time to do one of them. So which one's more important to you?
Get them to admit that there are feathered dinosaurs.
Okay. So how would you go about doing that then? So the other one's easier for me because I have already figured out, like, how you would go about doing it, and it's kind of a relatively straightforward 4-part process, right? It's just the details that get kind of slippery, and it's the same thing I told you before, right? It's you're going to have to get him first. You got to get him to admit that nested phylogenies are a thing. Then you're going to have to get him to admit that there are certain morphological characteristics that characterize all dinosaurs. Well, I guess before that, you're going to have to get him to admit that the nesting is always, like, if you add a criteria, then that just creates a subgroup within the group. You can't have a, it's never the case that, like, vertebrates aren't chordates. Like, all vertebrates are chordates. Chordates is a larger group, and you can't say chordates is anybody with a spine unless they also have a backbone. Like,
Sure,
you
keep
can't,
it monophyletic.
yeah, like, so you have to establish that, you have to establish that monophyly thing, right? Where it's like, you can't be like that. If you do have this feature, you're not whatever it is. You would then be that and a subgroup of that. right? So you have to establish that. Then you establish, here's the morphological characteristics, the open acetabulum and blah, blah, blah. I'm sure you know the whole,
Yeah.
all of the diagnostic characteristics of dinosaurs off the top of your head, right? And you just say, like, look, these are the characteristics, right? And then you get them to admit that, and then you say, and birds have all of those characteristics, plus they have feathers, right? And then you just let them twist in the wind, and you just chase them on that point for the rest of the stream. That's your plan.
Okay.
Sounds fun.
Right? It sounds simple, but it's in execution, it's not. And that's why I'm saying, like, you
Right.
can't do all of these other things, because doing that one thing will take you all night.
Fair. I will say, there might be some rustling in the background. My cat is going apeshit on a toy.
Hey, your stream, man. You're not ruining my sound quality.
Yeah, fair. Like I care about that. So in regards to dinosaurs having feathers,
Well, I mean, you
Yeah.
kind of, the reason I like the other one, or like that approach better, is because I've already thought it out. I don't have to figure it out now.
that's fair.
And we can just talk about the technique and nuts and bolts of it.
And maybe
We
I
can
can
figure out
how
that
to
dinosaurs
apply
have
that
feathers,
technique.
1 and 2. And the other thing is, like, in this situation, like, if you prove that all birds are dinosaurs, then by definition, all dinosaurs have feathers, or some dinosaurs have feathers,
Well,
because some
yeah.
dinosaurs are birds and birds have feathers.
Yeah. We just doing some thinking.
Yeah, hey, look, I'm not the boss of you, so I mean, you can do whatever you want.
No, I appreciate your input. I'm just processing and thinking.
Yeah.
I guess for what I want to talk about, which is the feathers in dinosaurs, because they say that no dinosaurs have feathers. It's just birds. Anything with feathers is a bird. I would have to start with, what are feathers? Like, get a definition for feathers. Ask them how they recognize feathers in a fossil. And then I would probably go through several different examples of feathered specimens with the description of how we know that those are feathers, not hairs, not collagen fibers, feathers. And they have to either agree that these are feathers on this fossil, or they are ignoring evidence that is right in front of them. Like, this is as saying that these are not feathers is like saying the sky is not blue.
All right, I think that works as an approach. Why don't let's do a practice here. So explain to me what feathers are using questions and forcing me to agree to every little step. So use phrases like blah, 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 right? Isn't it correct that? You will agree with me that? Isn't it true that?
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Right? So, like, just explain to me what a feather is, but do it with me, basically force me to tell you what a feather is by burying the answer in a series of questions.
Just give me a second to think about this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, do you agree with me that all animals have skin?
No.
No. Can you tell me an animal that does not have skin?
Any single-celled creature.
Single-celled creatures are not animals. Animals, by definition, are multicellular.
Fine, a sponge.
Yeah, that was the wrong approach. Shit.
Just start where you want to be. Like, just be like, okay, so you'll agree with me that there are a number of specific diagnostic characteristics that makes a feather a feather. And I would put it to you that there are 5, right? And that's true, isn't it? Or however many there are. I don't know how many there are. And I would say, I don't know, but I'll take your word for it. What's your point? And then you're going to say that, look, I put it to you that one of the diagnostic characteristics of whether or not something is a feather is that it has blah. All feathers have blah, right? And then you just go through all of the different characteristics. Start with that.
Oh, hey, orgasm check.
So, Anderson, you would agree with me that different animals have different types of skin coverings, correct? Some have scales, some have hair, some have feathers. That's a thing that many animals have, correct?
Many animals have, different combinations of those 3 things.
Okay.
Sure.
And when looking at the structure of these various coverings, we can tell them apart, correct? The structure of a feather is different from the structure of a hair or the structure of a scale, correct?
Yes. That was a good question, by
Okay.
the way.
Now, when we these differences between different type of skin coverings become extremely apparent at a microscopic scale. Do you agree or disagree?
I don't know. I don't know enough about it.
All right.
I'm not even sure what you mean.
Well, then let me put it to you this way. Hairs, when seen under a microscope, are solid all the way through. Feathers through a microscope are
Pause.
hollow.
Pause. You don't give me a compound question. Hairs, when seen through a microscope, are solid all the way through, right? Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they are.
Yes.
Yes.
So if you look at, let's look at all these different coverings in order. If you look at a hair under a microscope, a hair is going to be solid all the way through, correct?
Yes.
Same with the scale. Scales are going to be completely solid all the way through.
Yes.
Feathers, if you look at them under a microscope, are hollow, and you can see this in their structure, correct?
Yes.
All right. So, if you look at all of these features at high resolution, you can tell the differences between them, correct?
Based on what you
You
said,
are-
I mean, I suppose
You've agreed with.
I'm not even
so
sure that it's. Well, I'm going to say that I disagree if you're going to force me to do that, because I'm not even entirely sure that feathers are the only hollow thing, but I will agree with you that if you look at a feather under a microscope, it's hollow, and typically if you look at a hair or a scale under a microscope, that it's not going to be hollow. That's as far as I'm willing to go. There's lots of other things in nature that if you look at them under a microscope, they're hollow.
There are lots of other things in nature that are hollow, but I'm talking specifically about skin coverings. And when it comes to skin coverings, there aren't many that are hollow.
Okay.
In fact, the only one I can think of is feathers or some very specific types of hair. And we can
So there
still
are
tell those
there are
apart.
some kinds of hair that are hollow. Then is what you're telling me.
This is tough.
There's got to be isn't there a list of these are the characteristics of feathers?
Okay, well, first off, hair, at least mammalian hair, is formed from alpha keratin, and feathers are beta keratin. So are scales and scutes. There's one difference. I'm not sure how apparent that is.
So I think you can use the word, or you can use the term epidermal growth. That forms a distinctive outer covering. I'm just getting this from Wikipedia, right? Yeah, an epidermal growth that forms a distinctive outer covering, and there are different kinds of outer coverings, and they have different characteristics, right? And yeah, they produce keratin, in particular beta keratin, and that you can see beta pleated sheets, which are further twisted and crossed. In modern feathers, you can see beta pleated sheets, which are twisted and cross-linked by disulfide bridges into structures that are often even tougher than mammalian hair or horn or hooves.
Okay, there is.
I'm just getting this from Wikipedia, but
So I have found a difference that would be apparent from a microscope. Hairs extend into the dermis, whereas feathers are only on the epidermis. And you can see the distinction in high quality fossils.
Okay. What are some of the other things that you can see in high quality fossils that indicate that something is a feather as opposed to anything else?
So that's what I'm trying to figure out. The big thing is I'm trying to. So the easy thing would be to say that hair does not become branching filaments, but feathers can. However, there are dinosaurs that have those simple unbranched feathers.
Sure. That's fine though. So what?
I have the dermis versus
so
epidermis.
You can say look, so hairs never branch, right? Feathers sometimes branch. And it's kind of the only one that branches. Is that true?
As far as I know, it is.
Yeah, okay. So if we see something that's branching, then we know pretty much for a fact that that's a feather. It ain't no hair, and it ain't no scale, right?
Mm-hmm.
Definitively, is that true?
Sorry, I was reading. Could you repeat your question?
Yeah, it's just simple. It's a simple extension of what you just said. That if you see a feather, or sorry, if you see a structure emerging from the epidermis of a fossil's skin and it branches, then we know that that is a feather. We know it cannot be a hair or a scale because neither of those things branch, right?
Right.
Is that true?
It is true as far as I am aware.
Okay. So then what you are telling me, Mr. Flood Geologist guy, is that there are no examples of dinosaurs that are true dinosaurs that happen to have anything coming out of their skin or any evidence in the fossil record of a structure coming out of its epidermis that appears to have been made of keratin that branches, right?
No, there are no dinosaurs known that have any structure like that. That is only found in birds, and anything that has that type of structure is definitively a bird.
Is definitively a bird. So you're defining a dinosaur as something that has the characteristics of a bird but no feathers.
Birds and dinosaurs can seem very similar without feathers on the birds. However, there are still characteristics that distinguish them. Now, what you have a problem with is you're saying that birds evolved from dinosaurs.
I'm going to stop
And
you right there,
that
sir.
is
I'm going to stop you right there. This, by the way, is a trick that I use all the time. I'm going to stop you right there, sir. Everything you told me just now is very interesting, but it's not responsive to the question that I asked you. I asked you a very simple question. My question was, are you telling me that a dinosaur is just a featherless bird? Or are you telling me that a bird is just a dinosaur with feathers?
no.
Let me rephrase that. That was confusing. If I find a dinosaur, if I find a certain skeleton, it's going to have a certain suite of characteristics. It's going to have an open acetabulum. It's going to have a large fenestra in its skull. It's going to have a number of other features. And all those features commonly allow me to classify that thing as a dinosaur, right? Those are diagnostic characteristics of a dinosaur, right? I remember two off the top of my
suppose
head.
that you could say that those are what scientists call dinosaurs, if that is their definition.
Okay, and you're a scientist, right?
Yes.
Okay, and that's how you classify dinosaurs too, isn't it?
Well, dinosaurs are different created kinds from
Sir, what I
several
asked you was
thousands of
whether or
years.
not you use the commonly used classification or commonly used morphological characteristics to determine whether or not something is a dinosaur. Do you use the normal classifications where the you have the fenestra in the skull, you have the open acetabulum, you have the, I don't know, there's 5 or 6 other characteristics. They're published. They're diagnostic of, for most paleontologists, those are the diagnostic characteristics of a dinosaur. Do you agree with them? Are those the way that you define a dinosaur, or do you have some other goofy way of defining it?
That is how the secular scientists define a dinosaur.
That's
Yes.
very interesting, witness, and it's not the question I asked you. Is that how you do it?
Let's say yes for the purposes of this discussion.
Okay, so that's how you define a dinosaur. And you'll agree with me that there are birds that fit all of those characteristics, right? In fact, all birds fit those characteristics, don't they?
Well, just because they have all of these features that you arbitrarily assigned to them doesn't mean
I didn't
that they're
arbitrarily assign
dinosaurs.
anything, sir. You're the one who arbitrarily assigned them. I asked you whether that was your definition. You told me it was. So don't put this on me. You're telling me that birds are dinosaurs, aren't you?
And I'm not sure how to weasel out of this one. I think you got me, but I'm not very good at playing a creationist.
Right. I mean, so this is sort of the that's why I kind of like that approach, because then you can just say, you know, and you'll agree with me that some birds have feathers, and you're done.
And, you know, the funny thing is, you were asking if you found a bird without feathers, you'd call it a dinosaur. That has happened.
I'm sure it has.
That's happened with Archaeopteryx, which these people say is a bird.
Yeah. But I think although that's embarrassing, you stay laser focused. Like, so,
Mhm.
I don't know. It seems to me like, can you rattle off for me from memory what the features of a dinosaur are?
Okay. Let's see, starting from the front to the back. All dinosaurs have an antorbital fenestra. That's an open hole in between the nares and the eye socket. All dinosaurs. Ooh, sorry, stretch. All dinosaurs have an open acetabulum in the hip. All dinosaurs that we know of also have a specific joint in the ankle. It is called. I forget what it's called, but it's a specific
It's
knee
okay.
joint
Look
that
it,
only lets them
look it
rock
up
back and forth.
and look it up and have these all at your fingertips, right? Like, so I don't know. I don't know if I'm steering you too much into the way that I would do this if I were you, but if I am, like, tell me if you want to do this with the feather route, then we just need to do the same thing, but we need to do it for feathers, right? I think that doing it with the dinosaur thing is easier, but we can do it whatever way you want. Like, I'm here to try and help you, so you're running the show here. So give me some guidance so I don't try and steamroll you.
Sorry, some guidance in regards to.
Direction do you want to go? Do you want to go down this direction of diagnostic characteristics of dinosaurs, or do you want to go back? I feel like I've steered you onto a track that you didn't initially want to go down. And I want to give you the opportunity. If you want to go down this track, we can do that. If you're like, no, man, I want to focus on feathers. I want to nail them on the fact that, like, look, here's an Archaeopteryx, and here's a Velociraptor, and here's a Tyrannosaur, and they all have feathers. If you want to do it that way, then you're going to need to get really into the weeds about exactly what a feather is and exactly how we can tell something is a feather in the fossils, and exactly how we know that darn thing is still a dinosaur and not a bird. Because the problem you're going to run into if we don't establish that all birds are dinosaurs is they're just going to say, whenever you do see a feather, it's a bird. Whenever you don't see a feather, it's a dinosaur. And I feel like we're going to end up in the same place where it's going to be like, okay, well, how do you tell if something's a dinosaur as opposed to a bird? And it seems cleaner to me to say, like, so the first thing that we need to establish here is that the only way that you can establish whether something is a bird or a dinosaur is whether or not it has feathers. And so you're kind of begging the question, right? And I feel like, then you're going to get into a philosophical argument about whether or not something's begging. I hate when people call out, like, the different, this is just a general thing. I hate when people are like, well, that's a reification fallacy, or that's an AB fallacy, or that's a begging the question. Because, like, half the time, no, it's not. And then the other half the time, people will be like, I don't know what that is. Or they'll be like, getting into a debate about what is the definition of a reification fallacy or a AB fallacy, or like, it's like, no, just explain to them why it's wrong, and move forward, right? So, like,
Okay.
So letting him beg the question seems like an exercise in frustration to me.
Okay.
I think you have to establish what is a dinosaur, and then you can say, okay, so we find something. First thing we got to do is establish that thing is a dinosaur. Then we've got to establish whether or not that thing has feathers. right? Unless you want to just go down what I think is a simpler route, which is just, and if we were to look at the skeleton of any bird, it would be a dinosaur based on our definition. But maybe you do both.
So
actually, you know what?
I
Maybe this
think
would be more fun.
for
I just had an idea. Is you know what you do is you say, so okay, so here are the things that are dinosaur that make something a dinosaur. You agree with all these? Bing, 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 bing. Yes. Okay. And you're telling me that there's no way that something which has all of these characteristics can also have feathers. Is that right? Yes. Because that would be a bird, not a dinosaur, right? Yes. Okay. So I want to talk about a particular skeleton that we've found, right? And then and then you pull up a skeleton and you say, okay, so this particular animal has, and then you go through and you see like the open fenestra, the blah, 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 blah. You go down all of it, right? And you say, okay, so you will agree with me that this skeleton is the skeleton of a dinosaur, right? Yes. And then you say, and would it surprise you to learn that this skeleton is also the skeleton of a chicken?
Part of me wonders if they'd be able to tell the difference between an oviraptorosaur and a chicken if you hid the hands. I'm not
Hid
sure
the
they
hands.
could.
Just give them a reconstructed skeleton only.
Well, the hands on an oviraptorosaur make it a bit more obvious.
Who cares? I don't think they're gonna I bet
So
you.
So I understand what you're saying.
Find a skeleton of a chicken.
And I think that
or a
sounds
different, oh man, you're never like
I think you have a good approach. And I think if I was wanting, or if that was what I wanted to focus on, it is what I think that would be a good route for me to take in doing it.
well, I mean, then you just get to say that chickens have feathers, right?
Yeah. But I
So
want to get them to admit that feathers are found among dinosauria, like more broadly, just because that is something they have said specifically in the past that has irritated me. When you come onto the stream, I'd be happy to be your wingman in find no pun intended in finding fossils and stuff to help support you.
Show me a picture. Like, I mean, I don't know, like the picture that I had of the Zhang Wanlong thing. Like, how clear is it that sucker's covered in feathers?
I'd say blatantly obvious to anyone who has eyes.
Well, I have eyes, and I mean, I'm like, I'd probably add feathers, but I don't know. I mean, zoom in on, pull it up on the screen there and zoom in on it and rub my nose it and show me how
Right, let's
or
see.
even better yet, do it with with questions if you can, and be like, okay, so you see this, you see these fine structures here, yes. You see these fine markings here, yes. You'll agree with me that there's a branching pattern here, yes. All right, now this is, I'm gonna tell you right now, not a chicken. I'm not trying to trick you, right? This is, as far as I'm aware, a dinosaur. And it's an old, this thing is millions of years old. Okay, it lived with the dinosaurs. And I can tell you it's a dinosaur because I can show you the following characteristics, right? And you go bing, 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 right? So we agree that this thing is a dinosaur. Yes. All right, now I want to zoom in and I want to show you something interesting that we see on this dinosaur. And then you zoom into this picture and you're going to say, now, and before that, you'll have had to talk about what a dinosaur is and what feathers are, right? And you say, now, I want you to look at this. And you see those marks there. Do you know what those are? Do you know where those came? Do you know where those must have come from? Are you familiar with this specimen? You're not? That's okay. I'm going to tell you that according to the scientific paper, these markings are made up of yada, yada, yada. And I put it to you that that means that they are remnants of the thing's epidermal covering. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Right? And then you say, now, remember we talked about with respect to epidermal coverings, if the epidermal covering branches, it's probably not hair and it's not scales, it's feathers, right?
That appears to be the differentiating thing between feathers and hair and stuff, yes.
Okay. And looking at this fossil, you'll agree with me that what we see on these arms are branching epidermal structures that extend away from it. And the only conclusion that's available to us, if we're being honest, is that we're looking at a fossilized remnant of a feather, right?
Yes.
Okay. He's never going to give you that yes, but it doesn't matter
Yeah.
that he does, right? He's going to say, no, 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 no. When you're going to say, you're telling me that this, these things, like, look, I can zoom out, and even as a layperson, we can tell that these look like feathers. But as a scientist, I can tell you that they have all the following diagnostic characteristics. You'll agree with me, they have these characteristics, right? Bing, 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 bing. Yeah. And you'll agree with me that those are characteristics of feathers and nothing else, right? Well, no, I wouldn't agree to that. We agreed to it before, but now that you're looking at them attached to a dinosaur, you won't. Is that fair? Well, I think that that's not the question I asked you. Now that you're looking at these diagnostic characteristics of structures attached to a dinosaur, something you know is a dinosaur, you believe is a dinosaur, you don't think they're feathers, right? No, I don't think they're feathers. Or alternatively, you don't think this is a dinosaur, right? Right.
Mm.
So the only reason you think that this either can't be a dinosaur or that those can't be feathers is because you believe that the two of them can't go together, right? Right. And that's notwithstanding that we have picture that you're staring at right now of those two things clearly going together, right? Well, I don't agree to that. Well, that's fine, sir. Thank you very much. I'm done with you.
I'm not sure I'd be able to handle it that smoothly, but I feel like that's how that would go. And if I somehow got him to agree that Zhenwan Long was a dinosaur with feathers, I would probably bring up this image.
Yeah, I mean, you're never going to get him to agree that Zhenwan Long is a dinosaur and that it has feathers, right? Just get him to agree that it's a dinosaur and then show him the feathers, right? And he won't agree that they're feathers, right? But you say, look, anybody with an eye, with eyes that see or a mind that works, to quote, who is that a quote from? Ray Comfort. Anybody with an eye, with eyes that see and a mind that works can tell these are feathers. And the more
Even a
expertise you
5-year-old
have
could
in
tell
the
you
field,
these are feathers.
even a 5-year-old will be able to tell you these are feathers. And the more expertise you have in the field, the more obvious it is that these are feathers. And the paleontologists who do this for a living are convinced that they're feathers. But what you're telling me is that all the other paleontologists in the world, the ones who studied this, the ones who found this thing, the ones who studied this thing, the ones who peer-reviewed their papers, all these PhDs who've dedicated their lives to determining whether or not these are feathers, they're wrong, but you're right. That what you're telling me?
What are your qualifications?
Yeah, well, you just kind of let that hang in the air, right? But, you know,
That's
like
fair.
all these people who are of all these qualifications spent their lives doing this, who have, you know, looked at this thing 6 ways from Sundays, whose job it was to review this and make sure that it was solid and not let garbage through, right? Who peer reviewed the journals, who edit, you know, who edit the journals, who, you know, are their competitors, who have an incentive to shoot them down so that they themselves can make the discovery. All of those people who agree that these look, you know, that these must be feathers, they're wrong, but you're right. Doesn't matter what he says in response to that.
I'll have to remember that.
Well, you have to write it down. It's too much.
No,
right?
it's on recording.
Yeah, no, I mean, you'll have to go back and like pull some of the questions from the recording out and like
Yeah.
and like write them down in
I'll-
advance of Thursday. Because
I'll
like,
just create a big ass flowchart.
well, you know what? No, don't do that. I told you that you can't do that. That's too it branches too quickly.
That was a joke. That was a joke.
All right. But yeah, like, I mean, you know, pull some of the lines, the ones you like I've always said, right? You know, take what you like and ditch the rest. But, you know, if any of the lines that I've given you here, lines of questioning, I mean, are things that you're like, yeah, okay, I think I can adapt that. I think that might work for me. You know what? This thing's probably going to have a transcript for it, you know, at some point. And so just pull it and, you know, put your spin on it and poke them with it, right?
All right. I think I might.
Yeah. The other thing that you need to do, and you need to do this kind of at the start before you do anything else, is, you know, we agree that that phylogenies exist, that there are nesting hierarchies within the tree of life. Whether you want to agree that whether you want to say that that's because of design, or whether it's because of descent, I'm not getting into that with you. What I want you to agree to is that there is this nesting pattern. And the nesting pattern, it can't just be anything. You can't, like, we're drawing circles, we're drawing lines on paper, if you will. But you can, there's such a thing as a wrong line. There are ways to draw these lines that don't work. And the way that you have to do it is you have to draw circles, and you can't cross the circles once you've drawn it, right? There has to be a circle and then another circle within it. And everything that's within the larger circle, you can't, like, you know, put a small, there can't be, you can't have a donut shaped phylogeny, right? If it's a broader, if it's inside the broader circle, no matter what circle you draw within it, everything within the bigger circle is in the bigger circle. I want you to agree to that is the way that we understand the tree of life to work. That's the way that we understand nesting hierarchies to work. And that's the way
regardless of if it's created,
regardless if it's a result of creation or if it's a result of evolution. I'm not arguing that. What I'm arguing is that is the pattern. That is the way that we use the words, right? So, you know, all eukaryotes, like all chordates are eukaryotes, all of them, right? All vertebrates are chordates, all of them, no exceptions. All tetrapods are vertebrates and chordates and eukaryotes, all of them, no exceptions, right? All, I don't know, mammals are tetrapods and chordates and vertebrates and eukaryotes, all of them, no exception. And so as you get these more and more specific subgroups, you're always a part of your larger group. And that's the way that this works. And it works that way for dinosaurs too. And so the line for dinosaurs are whatever, acetabulum, fenestra, ankle thing, I don't know whatever they are, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, you just go from there.
All right, I'll grant you all that, but humans are not apes.
That's not even what we're talking about today, sir. I'll bust you on that another time.
Sorry, that's another conversation that is entertaining to me for some reason.
Yeah.
I cannot admit that humans are a type of ape.
I'll tell you what I think the OCO, the one-hit knockout is for these guys that I was interested in busting them on, is the microfossil record.
Yeah.
And by that, what I mean is that so I don't want to talk about what I'm going to be talking, I'm like, I don't want to talk about the dinosaurs or the mammoths or any of the big sexy fossils. I want to talk about the boring ones, right? I want to talk about the ones that you can only see under a microscope, the ones that come from, bacteria or not, maybe not bacteria, but they're like tiny little shells from like foraminifera or from like diatoms or from coccolithophores, these like little tiny, things that like they can't even swim around in the water. They just float in shallow seas and they make tiny shells and they die. And their bodies sink to the bottom and the next generation happens. Those ones, those are the ones I want to talk about. Here, do your English accent. I want to see how this plays. You know what I'm
Why are
talking
you
about, sir?
focused
Are you familiar with
on these
foraminifera and
tiny
diatoms
creatures?
and coccolithophores and so on?
I have heard of them before, yes.
All right. And you'll agree with me that they leave fossils behind, right?
Well, fossilization is a very rare process, but I guess that some of them may be preserved. Sure.
Right. Well, fossilization is often a rare process for the big sexy fossils, but it's not that rare of a process for these microfossils, is it, sir?
And can your evolution explain why that is?
My evolution doesn't have to. We're just talking about whether or not it's a fact. You'll agree with me, it's a fact that there are a lot of microfossils in the earth, like diatoms and foraminifera and coccolithophores and so on, right?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't looked into it myself.
Well, that's shameful, sir, because it's a really critical part of your job, and it kind of undermines the flood model. So, and I did text Donnie to tell you that you ought to look at this, and did he pass that on to you? They texted
You
him like
might have.
almost
I
a week
was
in
really busy
advance.
before this. I had 5 tours today. I don't have much time to read.
Well, sir, you know what they call people who have better things to do than review the scientific literature in preparation for a serious debate. You know what we call those people, right?
An evolutionist?
Laymen, non-experts, people who shouldn't be talking about it at all. Certainly not on a stream like this. Is that what you
Well,
are,
I
or are
think
you a serious scientist who professes to know his way around these issues?
I know you want me to do my British accent, but I just want to
I
dive
don't care.
headlong into Hovind.
I don't care. I mean, that's what I did to Hovind, right? That's what I did to him when he pulled that stunt on me. I've been very busy and I didn't look it up. Well, it's because you're not serious. You're not a serious scientist. But
Well, that's an insult. Donnie, kick him off the stream. He's insulting me. Ad hominem.
well, I mean, sir, an ad hominem is a little different because an ad hominem is where I say that you're stupid and you're a big poopy head, and that's why your arguments are wrong. I mean, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that you're a big poopy head and your arguments are wrong. There's no causal relationship. I can't say that, of course, but no. I mean, what I would actually say is that look, if you're not prepared to talk about it, then then I suppose we don't have anything to talk about. But I'm very disappointed because I did email in advance and suggest to you that this is a serious problem with your model, and that the microfossil record precludes a flood, a global flood, because it
Well,
cannot be.
that's just your opinion, and who cares about that anyway?
Well, sir, you could if you had studied the issue, but I mean, I think if you don't even know what microfossils are or what pattern they make in the geologic record, and by the way, the pattern that they make in the geologic record is that it's a very smooth gradation between species. It's so smooth that we can tell exactly how deep we're drilling based on the changes in the appearance of different microfossils. So we can drill down and we can watch them change over time, and we can watch new species emerge. And we know that they're new species because they're like almost identical, but ever so slightly different from the ones that were a little bit deeper. And
you're saying you're going back in time based on your assumptions of the geologic column.
right. Well, so sir, here's the thing: is that I would say that the reason that these microfossils change over time in such a slow, smooth way is because the Earth was laid down over time, and the fossils represent creatures that lived at the same time as that dirt was laid down, and that happened slowly, and that this fossil record changes slowly over millions of years because the animals change slowly over millions of years. But I fail to see how a massive global flood could sort across the whole world, consistently sort tiny microscopic animals that can't swim, are all dumb, and all lived in the same environment, and are so similar that it takes an expert to tell the difference between them as they finally transition from one form and another to another. How a flood would sort all of those consistently into layers. Can you explain that?
Well, some animals are better at swimming than others, and they would be able
Mhm.
to escape the rising tides of the flood.
All right, let's just pause there, though. So, sir, because right now what we're talking about are things like coccolithophores and diatoms and foraminifera, and none of them can swim. They all just float. So none of them can swim better than any other one. So I don't understand where you're going with that.
Well, the flood was a truly chaotic and messy event. It could have launched any number of things anywhere, and that could explain why they're only in certain places. That's just where the flood happened to throw them.
Well, okay. Here, hang on a second. Hang on a second. I should have something like this. Ready to go.
Do you want to throw something on screen?
Yeah, this is going to be the first time I've ever done it, so I'm going to try and do that now. All right. Okay. Can you see this?
Let me pop it up. Yes, I see a bunch of blobs on the screen. You think these blobs tell you something?
Yeah, you know what those are?
Little mushrooms?
No, man. These are called foraminifera, or forams, for the, is the hip lingo. What you're looking at are microscopic shells. You can only see these shells under the microscope. They're tiny, right? And these different shells, if you look at these things, you can see a series of changes over time, right? Like each row is kind of a series of changes, and like these are like really small, subtle changes in the shapes of the cell. So like maybe it's got a little extra bump here or there. So if we go, and by the way, I want to emphasize once again that like this is so well documented and so well studied that people use this commonly. It's called biostratigraphy, and they use this to drill to find oil. So it'll be like, I can go down and then I can go horizontally, and as long as my drill bit keeps digging up the forams that look like, let's say, the one on the left, top left, then I know I'm still in the right layer. I'm in pay dirt, right? But if I start to see the one that is the second from the left, I know I'm too shallow and I need to go down, right? That's how like precise we're talking about. That's how common these things are, and that's how well we know and how subtle these changes are. So what I'm asking you is, how does the flood account for the fact that there's a creature which is almost identical, except it's got an extra little bump in its shell? And every time those two things are found in the same column of dirt, the one with the extra bump is found on top of the one without the extra bump, like every time. Unless there was a very, very good reason. There's always exceptions in geology, but like very, very consistently and, you know, pretty much always, except for in situations where we can, you know, determine, oh, here's something goofy that happened, right? But like, except for those goofy situations, the one with the bump is always above the one without the bump. Why does a flood do that?
Well, see, Donnie, I'm tired. I've been working all day. I got to work for a living. I've been here 2 hours.
Exactly.
It's time for bed.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, that's my shot. Right.
Fair
It's
enough.
just like you can't, you know, you
Yeah,
can't
my-
you can't
I mean,
explain that. Then you got a big problem because these things are everywhere. There are literally trillions of them. Like if you go to you go to the White Cliffs of Dover, did you know the White Cliffs of Dover have fossils in them?
I mean, I'd go so far as to say they are fossil.
Yeah,
fossil.
that what I said was inaccurate in that it's not like they have fossils in them. They are fossil. It's a big old, you know, cliff full of fossils. But if you take the ones from the top and you compare them to the ones a little bit lower down and a little bit lower down and a little bit lower down, you can see changes. You can see a gradient of changes over time as you go from the top to the bottom. And the ones at the bottom look different from the ones at the top, but they look a little bit more similar to the ones that are just slightly above them. And those ones look a little bit more similar to the ones slightly above them. And so on up the whole 120-foot cliff. And I just want to know how it is that violent floodwater sorts things based on their microscopic shape when they are otherwise indistinguishable creatures.
Well, unfortunately, Mr. Bad Creationist has gone to bed for the night.
Yeah.
But yeah, microfossils are super important in paleontology, and like they're incredibly good proxies for the local climate. In fact, if you ever want to do a climate change debate with a creationist, which some are interested in, foraminifera are absurdly good clocks of global temperature. Or at least local temperatures.
You know, like you know, you can tell what like you can they were able to tell like where the Mississippi River was when they were drilling for oil. They wanted to find them, you know, they wanted to drill in the Mississippi River because of course oil is found in marine sediments and coal is found in terrestrial sediments, right? And they were looking for oil, so they wanted to make sure that they were under the river. And they were able to tell where the river used to be, you know, it wasn't there anymore, based on what forams they were finding at the tip of their drill bit. Like, and this is, as I understand it, tell me if I'm wrong about this, but as I understand it, like, this is what most like paleontologists do, is they work for people. They don't like, you have to be pretty special to get it, you know, to end up like looking at Tyrannosaurus bones. Most paleontologists aren't so lucky. They look at this.
It depends on what you want to specialize in and where you go. There are a lot of micropaleontologists and there are a lot of macropaleontologists, and there's a lot of overlap, and you can go in between the two. It really just depends on your interest.
Right, but unless you get unless you get lucky, like land a job at a museum or as a fossil prep guy or something like that, like, you know, you're gonna end up either starving to death or you're gonna end up working for an oil company doing this. This is a lot of what paleontology is. And if you guys don't understand that, you're missing out on kind of a big chunk of the whole field.
I mean, yeah, and I, just as a side note, I don't want to go into oil. I'm working on starting a fossil prep career. So
no, I know, and that makes you very special, right? That means you're going into the sexy fossils, right? But like most paleontologists ain't so lucky, they're gonna end up looking at these suckers, you know, under a microscope for an oil company, try and figure out how deep we got to go with our drill.
Yeah.
Is that even true? Is that remotely true? Is it true enough for me to say to a creationist?
It is a big part of paleontology. I am not certain if I would say it is the biggest part of paleontology.
Yeah. Well, if it comes up, you can say, like, look, Mr. Anderson is overstating things slightly, but he's not completely wrong.
Yeah, it is very important to global industries. And actually, speaking of cool fossils, this is my baby that I am currently working on. Actually, this is
Cool.
a few weeks ago.
Is it a hadrosaur or something?
This is a Camarasaurus humerus. So it's a
Camarasaurus.
mid-sized sauropod. Although this one is from a baby, basically. It would have been 8 to 10 years old when it died.
I don't know what a Camarasaurus is. Oh, it's like a big... Oh, wait, is this the one that's neck is longer than its body and its tail put together?
No, that would be a Mamenchusaurid.
Ah, yes.
Camarasaurus it's a semi-close relative of Brachiosaurus.
Okay.
It's smaller.
What's your opinion on Brontosaurus?
It is now
Apatosaurus
a
or
valid
Brontosaurus?
genus.
Oh, it is now?
Based on current
When did that
research,
happen?
yes.
When did that happen?
I want to
And
say
how
around
did that happen?
2015?
And how did that happen? Because the book my daughter got, and she's only 5, so this would have been after she, that would have been before she was born. Said that Apatosaurus, all Brontosauruses are really just Apatosauruses, and they screwed up the naming. You're telling me that now it is a valid taxa?
So that's what was thought for a long time. Also, here is Camarasaurus.
That's pretty good.
So Apatosaurus is part of a group called Apatosaurines, meaning Apatosaurus and its relatives, basically.
Yeah.
Because it was the first named, so the others got grouped around it.
Yeah, they do that with Triceratopses and Tyrannosauruses and all kinds of different ones. Tyrannosauroids, anthropoids.
So have you heard of the Bone Wars?
No. It sounds awesome.
So it is an insane story that needs a movie.
Don't tell me it's less exciting than it sounds, because that's going to really disappoint me.
It was absurd. There were 2 paleontologists, Edward Drinker Cope and Othniel Charles Marsh. They were proteges of a really prominent paleontologist. They were friends. And then they started fossil hunting. And they became some of the most bitter rivals in the history of the field. They were just in a rush to name as many species as they could. Whoever named more species was the winner, was how they basically saw it. As you can see here, Cope named Camarasaurus. I think he named Allosaurus. There was Apatosaurus, Brontosaurus, Brachiosaurus. So Brachiosaurus might have been later, but there were so many different dinosaurs these guys named. Like, most of the dinosaurs they named. Just in their frenzy to outdo the other.
Cool.
And there was an Apatosaurine found. I think it was by Marsh. Could be wrong. It was one of the 2. There was an Apatosaurine found that they considered distinct enough to call its own genus, Brontosaurus. Later work in the early 1900s decided it's close enough to Apatosaurus. We should just say it's Apatosaurus. So they were synonymized, meaning the older name was given precedence and the younger name was done away with. That's how it's done in most of paleontology with a few exceptions.
Yeah.
But then, decades later, in, I want to say 2015, but I need to make sure. Anyway, new research was done. Yep, 2015. Oh, it is Marsh. They examined all the known specimens of Apatosaurus and determined that there were two different groups. One of which they decided, okay, this is Apatosaurus because the original Apatosaurus is in it. But then there's this other group that the type specimen, so the diagnostic specimen of Brontosaurus belongs to. So we're going to resurrect Brontosaurus because it is different enough from Apatosaurus, according to our measurements, to be brought back.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Here's an article from the Scientific American, a 300-page study analyzing almost 500 features of 81 animals. Determined, Brontosaurus is back, giving us Brontosaurus excelsus, parvus, and yamapin. Which, Brontosaurus excelsus, like, god damn, that's a great name.
It's like way better. It's like a Brontosaurus just rolls off the tongue better than a Apatosaurus.
It's like the greatest thunder lizard. Oh, it's fabulous. But yeah, as of 2015, it is back.
There you go.
Let's see. Apparently, it can be distinguished easily by the neck, which is higher and skinnier. That apparently main defining characteristic. So yeah, finally back after decades of fighting among paleontologists. Emmanuel Schopp. Okay, yeah, he was the leader. He does a lot of work on sauropods.
I'm very sad that Diplodocus can't crack its tail like a whip.
Not like a whip, but it's still a body part the size of a freaking telephone pole. It's going to cause
I wanted it
damage.
to be able to break the sound barrier. I thought that was cool.
Doesn't need to break the sound barrier if it can break everything's ribs when it gets attacked.
But you can't crack its tail like a whip. That's what I'm sad about.
Fair. Anyway,
I wished that was still true.
Who knows? Maybe future data will come out. But this is the Camarasaurus. One of them that I'm working on right now. Little baby, and I have named it.
What'd you name it?
Lentil.
Aw.
It's
going to turn out to be a type specimen of a subspecies of Camarasaurus, and then it's going to be like Lentosaurus.
Well, I named it Lentil because it is most likely Camarasaurus lentus. It's one of the species. It's an herbivore, so, name it after a plant. And it's for Camarasaurus, a little baby. So it kind of fits.
There you go. Well, you know what? This has been a slice talk. I should probably run and spend some time with my wife unit. And
That's fair. Thank you for joining. Thanks for helping figure stuff out.
Yeah.
I hope it's talk more before Thursday.
We should, and you know what? Get your line polished, and we can we can put it through the ringer and refine it if you wish.
Yeah, sounds good. You going to take the turn being the evil creationist?
Yeah, of course. And I'll even throw in a couple of dirty tricks for you to
to toughen you up.
Well, that'd probably be good.
Yeah.
Well,
You can't just remember, if I don't get a chance to do it, to just just stay laser focused on the topic that you want. That line, that's not the question I asked you, just answer the question I asked you, is sometimes it's your best friend, right? Just don't let them
hold them
change
to
the
task.
subject. Just don't let them change the subject, unless you should, right? It's like that old chess saying, always put the rook behind the pawn unless it is incorrect to do so.
Do it unless you shouldn't.
Yeah, exactly. There's always going to be that situation where you got to follow the white rabbit, and and the opportunity is too good to pass up, and you got to do it, right? But but if you got him squirming, and he's trying to change the subject, point out that he's trying to change the subject, and then don't let him change the subject.
So answer the question. I know you can answer it.
It's an easy question. The tricky questions will come later, right?
Here, you okay, honey? Kiki's dying.
I'll say hi to Kiki for me.
She's apparently tried to breathe water. All right, you go have fun with your wife unit. I'll see you later.
All right, we'll talk to you later.
Right. I guess go ahead and get back to the show. I don't know if you're still here, Andrew. But
Yeah, I'm still here. I've just been listening.
fair. Kind of went off on a hour-long tangent there.
It's just fine.
It's not the first time.
Yeah, it probably won't be the last. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely not. But let us hit play for now until the next tangent.
Yes, there have been many, many purported dinosaur feathers that have been found, and these are usually put into two camps. So, for instance, number one, we have in our museum collection amber, some basically Cretaceous amber, right, on the realm of about 100 million years old to 120 million years old, according to secular dates. And inside this amber, there are feathers, and they were provided to us. We acquired them as being dinosaur feathers. And of course, you ask, okay, well, how did you know it's dinosaur feathers? Because you look at them, and there are some ones that are sort of soft and downy, and there are also some which have the proper barbs, right? The proper barbules. They are fully formed flight feathers.
Okay, so fair question. How can you tell the difference between bird feathers and dinosaur feathers?
You
well,
can?
first, they're all dinosaur feathers.
Right.
What's more blue or blue?
Bluest of bluest blue.
And you look into and you ask, well, how do we know, or how do people who purport them to be dinosaur feathers, what are they claiming about them that makes them dinosaur feathers? And the bulk of the argument seems to be, well, at the time that these are supposed to have existed, so 100 plus million years ago, the predominant feathery creature is supposed to be a dinosaur, therefore these must be dinosaur feathers, right?
Okay, if it is younger than about 200 million years, then they should not say that. Because we don't know when the first birds arrived. However, they do appear to have evolved pretty early in theropod evolution.
Yeah, I'd say they're around by about late Jurassic, at least.
Early? Well, maybe not early, but at least mid-Jurassic. Archaeopteryx is middle, late Jurassic. Anchiornis is mid-Jurassic, right. I think. Too?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking of Archaeopteryx, of course.
Yeah.
It's usually considered the first bird.
Yeah. Well, it used to be. It used to be called
a lot
first
fuzzier now.
Yeah. And for any creationists who might be listening, that's not really a problem. What an animal is marketed as is not necessarily what the scientific community agrees it is.
Right.
Archaeopteryx was the earliest known bird. Doesn't mean it's
Until we
necessarily
found
the
another one.
oldest. Yeah, we now know older birds. But I think hill huggers cracked the code. The featheriest ones are bird feathers.
See, there's a
So we're
scale
dealing
metric
with
for it.
not only circular reasoning, but also with flawed reasoning, because we know that we have fully formed birds in the Cretaceous. In fact, you can go one step further. We know that there
What
are
would
fully
a
formed
fully
birds.
formed bird in this case be? Because we have, like Archaeopteryx, basically it's basically a dromaeosaurid with just longer arms overall and longer feathers. Not as long as compared to later forms, of course. Then we have birds with shorter tails that are not quite the pyga style we see of modern birds, but they're more or less. But they have claws on their wings, and they still have unfused wing fingers, and most of them still have teeth. And then some of them lose teeth, but they still have the claws. And then some of them, the fingers fuse together, and they either have teeth or teeth are lost a couple times in bird evolution. You already know that, but
Yeah.
like where do you draw the line here exactly? Is fully formed bird?
Now, see, I would answer there isn't a line, there's a gradient.
Right.
For them, it's a lot harder, and if I recall correctly, they do say that they believe Archaeopteryx is a bird. They say it is
Oh.
just a bird, in fact.
Of course they have to.
Yep.
In the Jurassic. Case in point, Archaeopteryx.
Yep, bingo.
Right? And by the way, that's not creationist research that determined that. It was Natural History Museum research. You know, big prestigious place in London. Mentioned it earlier. They have some of the best preserved Archaeopteryx fossils, including the original one that Sir Richard Owen examined, and they ended up doing a number of tests, including taking scans of the brain capacity, and a reptile brain and the bird brain are very, very different, and they were...
Okay. So, this is not the first time I've covered this specific video. I did my own video about this.
Ooh.
And, I brought up pictures of many different birds and dinosaurs. The brain of Archaeopteryx is way more similar to, say, the brain of Velociraptor than it is to any modern bird.
Mm-hmm.
And they consider Velociraptor a dinosaur. So you can't say that, buddy.
Nope. That's another check mark.
We're hoping to find something in between, right? A transitional fossil. Now, it turns out that not only is it fully...
we do have that. We have the brain case of Ichthyornis, which is a Cretaceous seabird with teeth.
Right.
And the brain of that bird is, if I recall, more similar to the brain of a modern rhea than it is to Archaeopteryx or Velociraptor.
Right. So we have these these Cretaceous birds that are pretty much in most of their anatomy similar to modern birds, but they have teeth in their bill. Who'd have thought?
It's not the only one either.
Oh no, not by any means.
It's pretty big, if I recall, too. I think it's about the size of an albatross.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I thought it was smaller than that. We'll have to look later. I know Ichthyornis relative
Oh no,
to
it was smaller. Never mind. Like about the size of a pigeon.
Yeah, that sounds.
I got it mixed
more
up with something else.
There were early birds the size of albatross, though, and you wouldn't want to go meet across them.
Nope.
be feathered, with fully functioning feathers, with hollow bones. It also has a bird's brain, right? Which is very, very specific for
Wait,
birds, because you've
okay,
not only got
rewind. Is he
control of
talking
the
about
flight.
Archaeopteryx here? Because that's false.
Yes. He's
Okay,
talking
then
about Archaeopteryx.
yeah, he's just wrong.
Yep.
You've also got the gyroscope that's in there, and all these other kind of components of bird brains,
And
which are
hollow
unique
bones
to
are also
birds
found in
because
most
of-
theropods anyway.
Yep, there are. And also, I'm not sure what he means by the gyroscope.
Oh yeah, he said
Considering,
what's a gyroscope?
like, I'm not sure. At least mammals balance with the inner ear. I'm not sure. How do birds balance? I actually
Maybe
don't know
he's
that off the top of
talking
my head.
about the flexing motion of the breastbone during the flight stroke. Yeah, I don't know what he's talking about there. I'm just speculating.
Let's see. Do birds have... Oh, birds do have a vestibular system like we do. And also, apparently, they have a balancing organ in the hips.
It's not the synsacrum,
That
is
is...
it?
It would be within the synsacrum. But like that's fascinating. I did not know that, actually.
Makes sense. They could use some balance.
Huh.
Be needing to fly, right? And so even by secular standards, Archaeopteryx is a fully formed bird with some unusual features, but then we have
formed?
plenty of birds with features which are...
I mean, if he says so, like, define, please. Can you definition?
I mean, what does fully formed feather even mean? What he said earlier.
Who knows?
Are unusual or not the norm, so it's an unusual bird. And this is like 200 million years old in the Jurassic, before dinosaurs.
Give me a reason why Archaeopteryx should be a bird and not Velociraptor, other than size.
Did he just say Archaeopteryx was found 200 million years ago?
Yes, he did. It was not. I think it was 145 million.
Yeah.
Dinosaurs were supposed to have started evolving into birds. So there's a number of issues when you try and present these, feather fossils or individual feathered fossils.
Okay. So as I said, birds appear to have first evolved in the Jurassic. However, birds are a group of dinosaurs within a larger group called aviolans, which is basically just bird-like dinosaurs.
Right.
We have representatives of aviolans going back into the Jurassic all the way to the end of the Cretaceous.
And Paraves and Saurosaurs in general.
Paravians, Paraves are, I think, the next group above aviolans. No, aviolans is modern birds. You're right, Paraves. We have Paraves from the Jurassic into the Cretaceous. And like birds are just a subset of them.
Right. He's just talking about like the supposed temporal paradox, and it really drives me up the wall when, like, just a side issue here, when Raw Matt on Standing for Truth keeps showing the paper that claims there's a temporal paradox that's unsolved, when literally the rest of the paragraph in the abstract is about how they've solved it with the discovery of more fossils.
Well, it's Raw Matt. He doesn't know how to read.
Yeah. or to right.
Look,
for
I've
that
been
matter.
on that man's website.
Yeah,
Yeah, just because a group of paraves took the skies in the Jurassic doesn't mean that other birds didn't arise later. Microraptor
Right.
appears to independently evolved flight, and it's a dromaeosaur.
which makes me think he gave that earlier number specifically, like he did it on purpose 200 million years ago, so that if someone were to present that to him, then he could say, aha, it's still younger than what I claim this fossil to be, even though it's not when the fossil was actually dated.
Yeah. I am fairly certain Joe is a dishonest creationist, which I
Yeah.
mean, name one that isn't, but it's rather obvious.
I mean, what's
Because
the
he
common
should
saying?
know
You
better.
can't be honest, informed, and a creationist at the same time.
In my experience, yeah.
As being dinosaur feathers. There really isn't any evidence, and it's only circumstantial at best. There are some other fossils which are more complete, right? So complete dinosaur skeletons, which have been reported in the past to be feathered dinosaurs. Now, some of them are straight up fakes, but then that always comes, and science usually clears that up pretty quickly. That's fine.
Indeed.
Okay. So fake, like Archaeoraptor, which I'm
Right.
not sure if they bring that one up specifically, but yeah, there have been fakes. There have
Well,
always
like,
been
if
fakes in science.
if he says, then the fakes are pretty much rooted out immediately. Like bird paleontologists can tell this pretty easily when it's a fake. Why bring that up even at all then? Like, what's
I
the
don't know.
point? What
No
argument
idea.
is he trying to make?
Bold of you to assume there is a solid argument here.
That's fair.
I believe one of them was called Microraptor at one point. But then there are
Oh,
What?
Archaeoraptor. Yeah, he got it mixed up with Archaeoraptor.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
some of these other dinosaurs, like Sinosauropteryx, which we have a cast of in our museum collection, and a few others, which have these appearances of feathers. And I know that Diane's spoken about this before, so I'll hand over to her in a minute. But you can basically categorize them down into two simple things. Either they are hardly anything similar to feathers. So, I mean, all the feathers that we've found, including the ones in the fossil record and the ones in the amber, they are clearly feathers, right? They have the barbules. They are fully formed, fully functioning feathers. Yet you don't find this in the case of like Sinosauropteryx. There's something
because Sinosauropteryx is a compsognathid. It wouldn't need highly developed feathers.
Right. Well, I think this is, if you're going to go into this, like you guys were talking about earlier, you're probably going to want to clear this up immediately. Is it doesn't have to have veins with barbs and barbules to be classified as a feather. Like birds today have feathers that don't meet those criteria, but we still call them feathers. So do these dinosaurs.
Yeah. Yeah, that is going to be an important thing to bring up. Like I need him to tell me what he thinks a feather is. And then I need to present him with an actual definition.
Right. And if he says, well, it's a flight feather, then just point out to him, no, not all feathers in living birds are flight feathers.
Mm-hmm.
Something fuzzy going on there, but there's no real structure to them. So
why would they have structure?
I did. Well, the thing is, they do have internal structure. Feathers have internal structure, and
right.
the things on Sinosauropteryx do. I had to show a close up in my video to just. I hate it when they say stuff like that.
Oh, okay. I guess I was. My conception of what he just said there was that the feathers were just going every which way, like not the microscopic structure, the general structure of the pattern of feathers themselves. But I see what you mean. Yeah, that's pretty wrong.
Like the structure of Sinosauropteryx's feathers they're simple, but they are
Yeah.
there.
And like you
And
can
it's-
still tell their feathers because they have melanosomes, so we know what color they were too.
Yep. And I will forever love that you can see the original color on the
Yeah,
fossil.
that's so cool.
Ah, it's
And
so
granted, you
neat.
can't do that for most dinosaurs yet, but it's still awesome.
It's awesome when it appears.
Yep.
Okay, I've brought it up before. I am seriously considering getting a Sinosauropteryx tattoo.
I mean, that's nothing to be ashamed of.
Yeah, I'm not ashamed of it.
Yeah.
I
Go
just am. I need more money first.
Simplest and, well, quite frankly, what the evidence certainly seems to lead to is these being decayed collagen fragments, right? Off of
No.
keratin, off of
Nope, they're not. Like you said, Andrew, they have melanosomes, which collagen does not have. They
Oh, like
have
where you
internal
were
structure,
mentioning
which
earlier,
collagen does not have.
or I was just saying, like even you mentioned, even besides that, like what you were mentioning earlier, you can clearly tell they emerge from the skin. Collagen, when it decays, doesn't do that. It doesn't create the structure we see in these fossils.
Yep. And
they've
the
done
citation
experiments
for-
with these kinds of sediments that shows that's not the case. So
Yep. And so I don't recall if he cites Fiducia by name here, but I know that's what he's referencing.
yeah, that's Fiducia's argument.
Fiducia's claim is that they are collagen fibers similar to what are seen in some ichthyosaurs and sharks. There are several papers refuting that claim specifically, including one that took a really close look at the ichthyosaur he was citing. The collagen fibers are just grooves in the rock made during the cleaning of the fossil.
Yeah,
Like,
it makes
that is
you wonder why no one
plainly what they
claimed
are.
ichthyosaurs had feathers until now.
I mean, it'd be interesting if they did. Be like penguin feathers, probably.
Oh yeah, sure, but we don't have evidence for that yet, so
Yet.
off of scales, which we know dinosaurs had because we find fossil skin impressions with scales. And it also
We
makes sense
do.
because what happens to your skin and nails when you soak them in water for too long in the bath, right? They start to go a little bit fuzzy. So it makes sense that if you have a creature that's been suspended in water for a long time, that's what would happen to it. And
But-
again, go back to
But
the
aren't
flood.
they being buried by sediment? How are they underwater?
Well, they are. I think Sinosauropteryx was buried in lake sediments. So underwater, yes. But it was buried soon enough after buried soon enough after death that it didn't even have time for its belly to explode, which is something you see all the time in organisms that die in water.
Right, well,
It was
like, I'm
buried
talking
before that
about,
could
like-
happen.
Right, like I'm
So it was-
talking about even within their own model of flood geology, how can it be simultaneously buried by the flood and it still be exposed in water for that to happen?
Well, I don't know. All I know is that he just references, the flood and moves on.
Right. Yeah.
When it was,
Because
we know what it was deposited in. It was deposited in a nice, calm lake. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the detail we have.
right. And that's
It's easy.
weird how you have ash there when floods don't tend to do that.
Yeah, that too. Well, they claim there was a crap ton of volcanism during the flood,
Right.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay, well then why do we have these finely bedded ash layers? And many of them, in fact, like with these fossils in them. I don't know.
They don't either.
Or you have cases where, because they've been found in rocks that are supposed to be of dinosaur age and they do have fully formed feathers, they're regarded as dinosaurs, when the reality is you could just as easily interpret them as a bird. It's just that it's
Incorrect. they're both. Again,
Right.
they have the diagnostic features of a bird and of a dinosaur. They have both because they are both.
Right. It's not a dichotomy here.
Mhm. Just like how a triceratops has the traits of being a dinosaur and being a ceratopsian. It is both.
That it doesn't fit in with the evolutionary time frame. So there's a few thoughts on feathered dinosaurs there, but yes, as you say, it is controversial, not just in the secular world, but increasingly so in the creationist world, which is interesting. But it's not a debate to get into now necessarily. But Diane,
Joe,
any comments on the back of that?
Joe, can I just interrupt here? Do I have permission to embarrass you?
Sure. Go for it.
You know how Creation Research Australia, the main body of the organisation, has sent you funds to buy fossils, including dinosaur feathers and amber.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that, right? How come we don't have our specimens out here yet? They're in your museum.
Well, it's a good point. I shall have to yeah. You'll have to pay for my ticket to come over, and I'll bring them with me.
All right, we can give them to Diane when she comes over next. Sorry about that. I just thought it was a good time to remind you. Diane, do we have articles about this on the search website?
Oh, let me just unmute.
Question on that. We have another website called Ask John Mackay, which is questions and answers, and we did get the inevitable question about feathered dinosaurs. There is a little picture of Sinosauropteryx there, which you can see is clearly a dinosaur, but there is a sort of row of fuzz along its back.
Wait. What? Someone think Triceratops was a mammal?
Yeah.
Why?
Because they didn't take an anatomy course, apparently.
Triceratops. Triceratops. Mammal.
I mean, that's almost as bad as Ken Hovind saying dinosaurs were just giant lizards, because it's pretty much the same level of divergent. Well, almost.
Huh. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything on the first page of Google, but I could be missing it.
If you want to provide a link, that'd be awesome, Savage. More specific.
They're not modded. If you could send a title of an article or anything, that'd work.
Man, that's bizarre.
And if you have a look at that closely, and there are better pictures than the one that's on our website, it is just fuzz. It's just filaments. And even some of the evolutionists will admit that. A well-known paleontologist who's an expert on birds, Alan Fiducia, wrote.
There we go.
Yep, there we go. Yes, they are indeed filaments, because they are basic feathers.
Right. Oh, he's a Reddit user. Of course he is.
Oh, no. Oh, that sounds painful. Let's see. Our debate evolution.
It's like, not even a professional, quote-unquote, creationist would be bold enough to say something that ridiculous. Unless he's saying dinosaurs are like mammals in that they were partially endothermic, or at least mesothermic. But I have a feeling that's not what he's saying.
I don't know if we've done data, or I don't know if there's been a study on ceratopsian body temperatures. I'm actually curious now.
Yeah, I'm just generalizing from other dinosaurs studied on that subject.
Yeah, that
but that
yeah,
may
that's fair.
turn out to be false.
It's you can get a pretty good reading of an animal's body temperature based on isotopes in their teeth.
Right.
And
And probably
not
also
seeing
from
any,
yeah.
not seeing any publications, but I'd be interested in learning that.
That these are not feathers; it's bits of flayed skin. In other words,
Yeah, Donnie has the book by Fiducia. No, nobody agrees with Fiducia in the
No one.
scientific community. And I will clarify, there are a couple people who agree with Fiducia. The overwhelming majority of dinosaur and bird paleontologists vehemently disagree with Fiducia.
Oh, but
So,
you see, Doc, you're just appealing to a consensus there.
a consensus of informed people, yes. It'd be like asking mechanics if you should put sugar in your gas tank to make it go faster.
Especially in going with this analogy when the mechanics tend to already disagree with each other, yet they agree on this particular thing.
And then you have that one crackpot in the corner who says, "Oh yeah, make it go sparky, sparky, boom, boom."
words decaying skin. Now, in your skin, underneath the outside layer, there is a sort of whole felt work of fibers which literally holds your skin together. So if you have an animal that's been drowned and in the water and starting to decay, those filaments do start to come apart. And then if it's buried rapidly, those filaments will be preserved. Their structure will be preserved. So in our question there, we just get you to...
Yes, that's... Okay.
Isn't it interesting, though, how, for the most part, they don't talk about whether velociraptors specifically had feathers, but whether dinosaurs in general had feathers. And that's a subtle point, but it allows them, it seems, to not deal with the actual fossils of velociraptor.
And so if anyone wants to check it out, here is a paper by Smithwick et al. From April 2017 on the purported presence of fossilized collagen fibers in an ichthyosaur and a theropod dinosaur. So these scientists, paleontologists, take a look at Sinosauropteryx and the ichthyosaur Stenopterygius, which is the ichthyosaur that Fiducia cites. And I am just going to read the...
low quality images.
Despite a general consensus that the structures represent feathers or feather homologs, a few identify them as degraded collagen fibers derived from the skin. This latter view has been based on observations of low-quality images of Sinosauropteryx, as well as the suggestion that because superficially similar structures are seen in Jurassic ichthyosaurs, they cannot represent feathers. Here we highlight issues with the evidence put forward in support of this view, showing that integumentary structures have been misinterpreted based on sedimentary features and preparation marks, and that these errors have led to incorrect conclusions being drawn about the existence of collagen in Sinosauropteryx and the ichthyosaur Stenopterygius. We find there is no evidence to support the idea that the integumentary structures seen in the two taxa are collagen fibers, and confirm that the most parsimonious interpretation of fossilized structures that look like feather homologs in Sinosauropteryx is that they are indeed the remains of feather homologs.
Right.
So all that to say, They looked at the fossils
Right.
and no.
We do have an interesting
And
question
this
from
is
Savage here,
Hmm?
if you want to answer it.
have melanosomes ever been found in collagen fibers? Not to my knowledge, but I will not say it is impossible. But again, not to my knowledge. Collagen fibers are, as Diane actually said, they are used to help hold the body together. They are not usually
The
on the
skin
surface
itself.
unless you have a grievous injury, and there's just no need for them to have any color. There's no
Right.
need. In your skin, there is a need. It generally helps with reduction in radiation. Yeah, this is one paper going against fiducia. It is far from the only one. So let's see.
Now, do we want to be careful and make sure that our intuition about melanosomes there is correct?
I'll look in a moment. Citing literature.
Now, just so creationists can't really say we left no stone unturned.
So, like, here's another paper on integumentary structures. I'd have to actually go through this in detail on my own time. Let's see. Melanosomes, feathers. Or melanosomes. What cells are melanosomes in? Let's see. Okay. So melanosomes are a specific organelle found in melanocytes, which produce pigments.
Right.
Okay. Now this is just coming from Wikipedia. So this is just Wikipedia for, convenience.
Right.
Okay. Is in the epidermis, which is above the collagen. Collagen, I believe, is mostly in the hypodermis, which is the lowest layer of the skin. In the eye, inner ear, vaginal epithelium, so skin cells in the vagina. Meninges, those are basically sacs surrounding your brain, helping to cushion it. Your bones and your heart. So they produce. Why are you so jumpy?
Yeah,
Hello?
I think we can.
Hi, buddy. Sorry, my
Oh,
cat just jumped up on my shoulders.
Oh, he just wants to say hi.
I guess.
Or is it a she or is it a he?
He. But yeah, it is not found in. Okay, Rodney has a link. Okay. Oh, also, are dinos fluffy or not? 94% said yes.
Oh, that's good.
All right, Rodney, you are a moderator now. Just refresh the page and you should be able to post the link. We will take a look. Or you can DM it to me, that works too. Whichever you prefer. If it's in the chat, though, other people can click it, so I'd kind of prefer that. Oof.
I mean, makes sense though. If they are claiming them to be actual collagen fibers, then collagen doesn't typically have pigment in it. So
Yeah. As far as I'm aware, collagen does not have melanosomes.
right.
But I could always be wrong. This is a link to species sampling in chelicerates. It's interesting. Nano. Yeah, I was wondering if it was the wrong one. You sent a link to a study on the phylogeny of insects, or well,
I mean,
or
isn't it
not
an uninteresting
insects.
subject?
Yeah, not uninteresting. It's just like I'm not sure that's the right one. Okay, let's see. So this is from, is there a year? 2015. Okay.
Can you do a control?
I'm just going to go through the abstract since we're on stream. But
yeah. Well, I was saying you can also do a control F and search for collagen or melanosome.
True. I'll go for collagen. Not mentioned in the article.
Want to read the abstract anyway?
Oh, well, it's just so here's a bunch of fossils with preserved melanosomes. Yeah, so at least if I recall correctly, in most animals, or at least amniotes, there are two specific types of melanosomes. There are rod-shaped ones, and there are circular ones. Each produce a different type of pigment. Other colors can be found in structural elements, like the iridescence of a raven's feather. That's structural. The feather makes light reflect. Or there can be pigments derived from diet.
Like flamingos.
Yeah, flamingos. Flamingos are pink because they eat pink shrimp. So feathers, birds. Ooh, a bat. That's interesting. An octopus.
That would make sense.
Ooh, R is a frog that has eyes.
A frog?
Q and R. Oh, that's cool. This looks like a really neat article, man. Like, honestly. Ooh. Ooh.
Well, thanks for finding this, Rodney. Even if it
This is interesting.
didn't
I'm gonna
mention
have to look through it
collagen,
later.
but it seems like it's still a very good article.
Yeah.
I
Anyway,
mean, to be honest, anything about color and melanosomes and fossils is cool.
yeah, like, Microraptor we mentioned earlier, colored like a raven, and I love that. Yeah, no, that's fair, Rodney. Looks like something I'll have to read more up on later, but it's neat if nothing else. I will just say, as far as I know, you don't have melanosomes in collagen. I could be wrong, and I'm welcome to be proven wrong. But as far as I know.
Any
Anywho,
creationists listening, you know what to do
Yeah,
now.
prove me wrong. You have a link? Send a link. I will make you a temporary mod.
Right.
As long as it's an appropriate link.
You to think, we like to get people to think and just ask two questions. Are they really feathers? Now, where they
Yes.
have these actually attached to a skeleton, they are just filaments. The feathers, the things that are found as feathers,
They are attached to the skeleton.
Genlon long, Caudipteryx. Let's see, in the video I did, I had a list of like 15 different genre I just rattled off anytime they started pulling this. Like, Utyrannus, for example. Some of the feathers are like 5 or 6 inches long, if I recall. Those are not collagen fibers.
Right. It seems
are
odd for collagen.
Fluffy dinos.
there's like the ones that are entrapped in amber, or sometimes as isolated feathers buried in the rocks. They are separate from the skeletons, and they are fully
Not
formed
most of
feathers.
the time.
So
Yeah, no. We do find isolated feathers, but we also have a bunch of feathers on the skeleton. Or, well,
Yeah.
to be more specific, on the specimen.
Right. But for all intents and purposes, connected to the skeleton.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, also, you know, if they want to say anything with feathers as a bird, I just want to bring up Pandactylus.
Pendactylus.
It is a pterosaur that just recently we found feathers covering its body.
And these would still be simple filaments, right?
No, they're complex feathers.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh. Let me see if I can find the paper.
Like vein feathers or less complex?
Yes.
Really?
Uh-huh. It's freaking great.
That's a surprise to me.
Like branching feather structures. Also a preserved head crest showing what it actually looked like.
Does it say where in the body or skeleton these would have been found?
As far as I know, the feathers are from all over the body.
Huh.
Yeah, it's this came out in 2022, and it's just it's amazing.
Okay. That explains
and
why I
it's not
didn't hear of it earlier. It's fairly recent.
Yeah, and it's not the only pterosaur either. What's it called? Chinese.
Have any other pterosaurs specifically been found with these branching feathers?
Yes, in fact, there was one from China, Jehalopterus, that was famous, like made the rounds in paleontology circles for it. Let me get a good picture.
And
If I recall, like
Savage points out here, ceratopsians. Sorry, go ahead.
If I recall correctly, like 6 or 7 different feather types.
Wow.
Covering its body.
On the same specimen.
What were you saying? Yeah, on the same specimen.
Wow. That's cool.
Yep.
I was just
Jehalopterus minchinensis.
I was pointing out Savage's comment that ceratopsians also seem to have had proto-feather-like quill structures, basically. So seeming more and more like archosaurs, or at least the group including pterosaurs and dinosaurs, had feathers or some it kind of reminds me of are you familiar with the proposed clade Toxicophora for snakes and certain lizards?
I am not.
So there have been studies placing the group that includes snakes with certain species, including iguanids and of course monitor lizards, among others, that, well, not all of them have like actual venom or toxic venom. They all seem to have a propensity for developing venom to some degree. So that's why they called the clade Toxicophora. So maybe this is like that, or maybe feathers in general are just a plesiomorphic a synapomorphic characteristic of this group of dinosaurs and pterosaurs. That'd be pretty interesting.
Yeah, and possibly crocodilians too.
Right,
if
crocodiles too,
that
yeah.
pans out. But yeah, this is Jeholopterus. This is the skeleton. And this website, Reptile Evolution, is actually kind of neat because it just highlights like the parts of the body for you. It's pretty
That's nice.
neat. Yeah, so like the orange bits, those are just feathers covering the skeleton.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh wow,
it's
that's a lot of feathers.
Everywhere. And we're finding out on more and more pterosaurs.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me with the trend going here.
What was that?
I said it wouldn't surprise me with the trend going on here.
Yeah. I love how we keep finding more out about the past. It's great.
It's awesome.
Feathers when you find them attached to a dinosaur? And the answer is no. They are filamentous excrescences, and they can be accounted for by being buried and decayed. The other question you need to ask is the specimen actually a dinosaur? And the classic example, of course, is Archaeopteryx, which has been classified as a dinosaur, but it is very clearly a bird when people have studied it.
Give me a characteristic that sets it apart from other Maniraptorans. I dare you. And actually, really quick, I'm just going to go ahead and post the link to that Jeholopterus thing if anyone's interested. There's a really, really fun picture I love to bring up just as a comparison. This is Archaeopteryx, and this is Deinonychus.
Yeah, look.
Give me a reason why this is not whatever this is.
I mean, even going further back, you can see clear similarities with Signaphids. So,
yeah, including. Oh yeah, Anderson reminded me earlier. There was a very famous incident where a Archaeopteryx was mistaken for a Compsognathid.
yeah.
Just because they're so similar. It just didn't have feathers, so, it's a Compsognathid. Nope.
Take away the fluff, things start to get rough.
Uh-huh.
And also, as Savage points out here, and hope you don't mind me stealing this, or Doc stealing this argument, because that's actually a good gotcha point. If they think these aren't feathers, then guess chicken hatchlings don't have feathers either.
Yeah, if I recall, Sinosauropteryx feathers structurally are very similar to down. So that'd be very, very interesting.
Right.
Ooh, and Tell Me More brings up, or Rodney, but I'll just say Tell Me More because that's the name you have here. Pudosaurus. Pretty interesting crocodilian. Although, I don't know, if we're wanting to talk about cool crocodilians, I have my own personal favorite. This is Barina sucus. This was a terrestrial crocodilian. And it was the apex predator of South America for a long time.
This would be a Sebeka sucid, right?
I think so. Here's another picture.
Yeah.
Like, that is terrifying. I see. Let's see. Yeah, it's a Sebeka.
Okay.
Man.
Yeah. Land croc to an extreme.
Galloping land croc.
And I wish I could see some extinct forms, but I'm glad those are extinct, among other ones. Oh yeah, or lion-sized otters.
Oh yeah, those were a thing.
Yeah, otters can be pretty fierce.
Oh man, if they were still alive today, saber-toothed cats, like Smilodon would be terrifying.
Oh yeah.
Just imagine if you took a lion and turned it into a wrestler, and then gave it daggers for a face.
Studies of fossils these days with scanning techniques, see the internal structure, and we've written about this in the fact file. In fact, that one about Archaeopteryx having a bird brain, that one is there. So think when you are presented with this evidence, are they really feathers? Are they really dinosaurs? And that will help you sort all of the information or stories that you get from the popular press and the popular media.
Like you said, hit the nail on the head. Yes and yes. They are feathers.
At the end of the day, that's the answer.
Oh, also, I brought up Smilodon, and I forget how big they are.
Yeah. Well, the biggest species, at least.
True, there was some variation, but like, oh, that's terrifying. And like I said, they're built like wrestlers.
Bring their prey to the ground, hold it there, and stab it in the neck or belly, and just quick kill.
That's leading hypothesis for how they would have hunted.
Yeah.
And there's reason to think they would have lived in packs, which does not help.
To say like lions, but yeah, social groups maybe.
Well, so there's at least one, if I recall correctly, it either had a broken femur or the femur was like fully popped out of the socket, and it survived with that injury for a long time.
Oh, okay.
That is a death blow to an active predator.
Right.
Unless you live in a pack.
Right.
Anyway, I had a few videos for tonight. We might do one or more. They're much shorter. Let's try to go through them a bit quicker.
Yeah.
This
I
is
gotta head out soon too.
Yeah, this is a video on the Creation Research YouTube channel. Which, you know, it's weird. They have 5.25k subs. Most of their recent videos struggle to top 100 views. Like, they have the same view count I do. It's weird.
This is Mackay's channel, isn't it?
What was that?
This is Mackay's channel, isn't it? Or the
this
group
is
people
the
on?
ministry's channel. But I think Mackay is the leader of the ministry.
Okay.
Also, that is it just me, or does that look like the Land Before Time shark tooth?
What are those teeth?
I mean, it
That's
looks
alright. I know
awkward.
that's the first thing that struck me about that. Like, why are the teeth like that?
Why are the teeth what?
I said that's the first thing that struck me, despite the weird head and nostrils and eyes, etc., is the teeth. Why are the teeth shaped like that?
I mean, they're not the worst. They're a little skinny if
Yeah,
that's supposed to be a T-Rex.
yeah. They look more like the Plodikid teeth with just
The weird
different
thing is
sizes.
you're right. Even, well, I mean, Diplodocid teeth would be all in the front, but
Right.
yeah, you're not wrong. And yeah, just in case anyone hasn't seen Land Before Time before. Land Before Time before Land Before Land Before Time. Come on, there's a good image. Yeah. They called the carnivore sharp teeth. It looks like that head.
Right.
Like it has the same weird
Weird.
nose thingy.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Savage.
Yeah.
Look, its neck is entering the bottom of the head.
It's a sharp tooth, I
Yeah.
guess. Also, tell me more. Don't steal my format. My format is terrible. We have 5-hour tangents.
A quick picture of a new dinosaur head that we've got for the museum that's made up here in Brisbane. So John's going to store that until we've got a Queenslander travelling down to Tassie
Okay.
later in the year to save
Maybe
some
I'm just
freight.
tired,
So that's going to be great.
and I'm not. I generally don't try to sound mean to creationists, but if that's your dinosaur head for your museum, quote unquote,
It's interesting. Like, back to the 70s, I see.
I guess so.
Great addition to the museum. But yeah, getting on to Queensland Museum, so some fantastic.
Ooh, I want to play What Is That Dinosaur? I want to
It
say
says Patagonia, so I'm guessing it's some kind of Carcharodontosaurid, obviously.
yeah, the skull doesn't look right for Giganotosaurus.
Yeah, maybe it's Tyrannotitan.
Could be. I think Tyrannotitan has a weirdly tall spine.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, hey, you're right. It is Tyrannotitan.
Oh wow.
Found a picture.
Oh, there we go.
One of the pictures on Wikipedia. Good eye. I was gonna guess maybe Meraxes, depending on how recent this is.
Yeah, that looks too robust for Mirax.
I thought Meraxes was pretty beefy.
Oh, maybe I'm. Yeah.
Meraxes. Yeah, no, Meraxes is pretty beefy.
Well, I haven't looked too much at Miraxes,
We're
so
just
I'm just wrong there.
beefcakes.
And they hunted medium to large sauropods, so they kind of had to be.
Yeah. What does the sign in the back say?
The blue one?
Something raptor?
Oh yeah, because I think I see another skeleton behind it.
Yeah, I think it's something raptor. Omniraptor? No, that's from... That's a made-up animal from a game. I don't know. I think it's something raptor.
But yeah, I hope there's not too much background noise. Someone watching TV in the other room.
I barely hear anything. You're fine, man.
Okay, that's good.
My cat's been bolting around all stream. Oh,
You found it.
tell me more. Found a Condor Raptor. That's a neat name.
Dinosaur models there, and including the largest dinosaur ever found, Patago Titan, I think it was called.
Pataga Titan is one of them. I think Argentinosaurus still holds the record, though.
Yeah.
At least for mass.
Showing the tag of Titan though, so that's
Yeah. And I mean, to be fair, Pataga Titan is absurdly huge.
Oh yeah, yeah.
There's a few skeletons of it up around the world. Titan. My favorite one though has to be the Field Museum one, just because they have it looking up onto the third floor balcony.
Oh. Oh wow.
You can just stand right over here and see it. It's great. I actually have I have that Titanosaur on my keychain. My family went there a few years ago before COVID when they first got him. So I've had Maximo the Titanosaur on my keychain ever since.
That's pretty cool. I wish I had something.
Well, I kept it around because it was the first time we took one of my little sisters to the Field Museum. So seeing it always reminds me of that trip.
That's cool.
It was great seeing, this little 3-year-old, not even, I don't think she was even 2. This little baby just staring up at this giant monster. She wasn't even as tall as its foot.
Bro, yeah.
That's great. Dinosaurs are cool.
They're definitely good for young memories.
Yeah.
38 meters or something from tip of tail to nose.
Sounds
John's
right.
standing next to that one there with his hand on it there. Probably illegal. John?
No, I didn't touch it.
Oh, I didn't touch it, you reckon? Okay, so that's it there. So one of the things that they were really presenting there was feathers on dinosaurs, and by the end of it, also
What a distinguished little raptor. The wrists are pronated.
Oh, they are, yeah.
Sad. The rest of it looks pretty decent, even if it is snarling.
Yeah.
the blood pressure was up a little bit because I was presenting this as fact. But this is actually, I think John shared this one a few weeks ago, the feathered velociraptor at the model making place that we went to. And they make that because places like these museums are requesting them, even though velociraptors have never been found with feathers. In fact, we found this little kids book in the gift shop at the museum, and what it says in it there is your velociraptor will grow into an adult quite quickly. It will keep its feathers as it grows up.
Oh, that looks like a cute book. Like teaching people about dinos as babies and as they grow up. That's cute. I like that. It's the kind of book I would have read over and over and over as a kid.
As already mentioned here, and as pointed out in the side chat, Quill Knobs.
Quill Knobs. Also Gen 1 long.
Right. Yeah.
Even to the little children, they're presenting this whole idea that the velociraptors had feathers, even though, as our new sign that we've got for the Brisbane Museum shows, the actual.
That's an interesting cast.
That
Doesn't look like a skull's weird.
That it looks like a dromaeosaur. That doesn't look like Velociraptor. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, the tail looks a bit weird. The hands are
Yeah.
weird. And the skull is weird.
Hmm.
Velociraptor has a really, really low, skinny skull. I don't know. Just a little weird.
Actual cast, what they've actually found, and they don't.
That's
have
our
that-
Discovery Centre display, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Brisbane.
Oh, and we kind of mentioned it before. So why doesn't this dinosaur? Why don't we have Velociraptor with feathers? All of our Velociraptor fossils are from the Gobi Desert,
Right.
from formations that are all sandstone. Sandstone does not preserve small details well at all.
Right.
Like, you're only going to get the heart parts. You're not going to get feathers. You're not going to get leaves. You're nothing like that.
And to clarify, this isn't to say Velociraptor didn't have feathers in real life, just that
Yes.
feather impressions need specific conditions generally to be preserved.
Yes, exactly. It did not live in an environment that would be good for preserving feathers.
Right.
And we can say that pretty well because closely related animals that did live in places that were good for preserving feathers
Had feathers.
have feathers. Like Anderson demonstrated when he was here. If you don't know how to tell the difference, you just look at Genoa Long and say it's a Velociraptor.
Right.
Like, the only real difference seems to be some structures in the head. Like, the head's different. Other than that, it's almost identical.
Brisbane Creation Discovery Centre has got a great sign, and I'm not sure if you'll bring that up later, but this is a new cast. I'll slip that in before John.
What the?
That's... Like, I'm not gonna call that bad, but that is an ugly cast. If you want a good cast, get you a cast of the Fighting Dinosaurs Velociraptor. That one's beautiful.
Oh yeah, that fossil's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, John's had a chance,
What's going on
but
with
that
the
arrived
tail?
during the week.
So what's going on with the tail there?
Well, it's entirely wrong to start with. The tibia, one of the tibia is just a bar. The shoulders are shoved partway up the neck like a tie. The teeth
Yeah.
are just pegs. I kind of want to send a picture of this to a paleontologist I know who studies dromaeosaurs. He'd probably go mental.
This genuinely looks like, one of those plastic miniature skeletons of a dinosaur you would find at like Michael's or something. Like, it just looks that bad.
You know what? I'm actually gonna send it to him. I want to see his opinion.
Yes, please. Just for the reaction. Yeah, like it like tell me more saying here. It must be like a casting of a wooden replica of something else.
Correct. This is what the evolutionists don't want you to see.
I wouldn't want to see this either.
This is what the evolutionists don't want to see.
and that's a fantastic cast of a velociraptor as they're found, again with no feathers and in that drowning pose with the head kicked back and the tail bent over. So
Press
that's going to be a
X
great
for
addition
doubt,
to the museum.
sir.
Yeah. Let's see. So, for a little reference for those who are not familiar, here's what a
Here we
good
go.
velociraptor looks. Oh, gee, good velociraptor looks like. And I know it's not the only specimen.
It's a very infamous one, though.
Okay, get this. I searched velociraptor fossils. One of the first images is just Zhenwan Long. That's great. I know there have been other specimens found. Don't know where to find pictures of them though, sadly. But there are some
Yeah.
neat ones out there.
Well, let's just all agree this isn't one of them.
Yeah, and also, this is not what you'd get if they drowned. This is a normal thing that happens in a lot of animals when they die.
Yeah.
Tendons that normally hold the head up dry
Just
out and
break.
shrink.
Yep.
We see this in birds, lizards, snakes, deer. I don't think we see it in humans, but I wouldn't be too surprised.
Maybe if we had longer necks.
Maybe.
But they don't hesitate at all throughout the whole display. They're pushing the fact that dinosaurs evolved into birds. And
Correct, it is a fact.
here's one of the quotes, one of the
that was
signs
cheap.
that one dinosaur group that survived and still with us today are birds. So they're calling birds dinosaurs very openly in this day and age.
Because I do have to address drowning in desert sand dunes. So I know you're making a joke, Cobra, but I think that's still the leading hypothesis for how we got the fighting dinosaurs. A sand dune collapsed on them while they were fighting and buried them.
Yep.
So they did drown in desert sand dunes.
Oh.
And age. So there's some of the pictures that they found.
Ooh, except we have found dinosaurs like that.
Yeah.
Calindrodromius was just described fairly recently.
And what was the other one? I'm gonna butcher this. Sorry. Tian Jiaolong, something like that.
Tian Jiaolong.
Yes. Thank you.
Don't know off the top of my head. But yeah, we have a feathered ornithopod. So this isn't even anywhere related to birds. Tian Jiaolong?
I believe so.
Honestly, I don't know how to spell that.
That's okay. We made our point, I think.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, they exist. We found them.
Yeah.
We have found feathered versions of basically every dinosaur group.
Except Phyriophorans.
We don't have our duckbill. Sorry, the only thing we don't have are duckbills, as far as I know.
So they never found like that. And in particular with all that sort of downy fluff that they're trying to put over the entire body. So yes, there's been strands found on like Sinosauropteryx, isn't it? And so on. But they're collagen fibers and protein fibers breaking down rather than feathers. Here's another picture of Condoraptor, and the sign that was associated with it said that and admitted that fossil remains are actually scarce of these dinosaurs, and yet this one's one of the most complete ones from the Middle Jurassic period. So,
okay, something can be rare, but when it's found, it can be fairly complete.
Right. And complete articulated skeletons are pretty rare. That's why they're celebrated when they're found.
Like, if I were to make an analogy, Model Ts are scarce in the modern day, but here in this museum exhibit, we have one of the most complete that we know of. It's rare, but it exists.
Right.
Oh, it's a Pietnitskiasaurus. Or Pietnitskiasaurus.
Oh, the one I just showed.
Condoraptor, apparently.
What
It's a
group of
subset of
theropods?
megalosaurids.
Oh, okay.
It's a really weird name.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay, this is interesting. Just going to the Wikipedia. Its name means, well, I guess the robber or thief of Cerro Condor. That's kind of neat. Yeah, this is the Cañadón Asfalto Formation. I think there are some Dicraeosaurids known from there. And yeah, Pietnitskiasaurid. I think that's...
Yeah, it says megalosauroid, so...
Yeah, neat.
I
Always
always
neat
like
learning
looking
about a
at
new
dinosaur
dino.
relationships and what groups they fall into. I like organizing things.
Yeah, it's neat how they fall into groups on their own.
Yeah.
So they don't have a lot of evidence to work with at all with these things, and they're really making up. Now, this one really intrigued us. This model that we both bought in the gift shop because we thought that they'd be a great example to put in the museum just to show.
Okay, so that is Therizinosaurus, and while we don't have evidence for feathers on Therizinosaurus,
We do for Therizinosaurids in general.
Yep. In
think it's,
particular, a medium-sized Therizinosaurid known as Bepiausaurus.
Yep.
Like, pretty unambiguous feathers.
There we go.
In fact, it appears to have had like a little throat pouch kind of thing, which is interesting.
Maybe it's some kind of display structure.
Yeah. I mean, actually, yeah, it could be.
Not that surprising. There are a lot of dinosaurs with random display structures.
Yeah, they're actually... Oh, man. Someone brought up a really freaking weird one recently. I forget what it was called, but it just had a couple random massive feathers coming off its back, I think.
Was it Epidexipteryx?
No.
Yeah.
Don't remember which one it was.
Yeah.
But this dinosaur made it into a dino game I play on occasion. The Isle, which has its problems, but some of its creatures are really cool. And I love what they did with Bepiausaurus.
Yeah.
They turned it into a little omnivore that
That can swim.
was semi-aquatic, actually. It's kind of neat. Anyway, all that to say, you could put some feathers on a therizinosaur, and honestly, like a sparse coating of some feathers with maybe some for display on the arms. I wouldn't
Not too unreasonable.
construct them like that, but that's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
The ways that people are being deceived, especially the children. You see that it's given a chicken-like body, even though this thing was as high as 7 meters tall. But
Because they had
Yes,
that body
I'm
shape.
sorry. Therizinosaurs look like giant chickens.
That's just what they look like.
Oh, sorry, that's them. They're weird. They are very weird animals. Like, just going off the bones, there's no way to not get them to look like that. Like,
Look like
you're gonna turn up with the Jurassic World one if you look up Therizinosaurus, but yeah, no, this is how Therizinosaurs looked. They were really freaking weird.
Yeah. Pot bellies, short tails, long necks, usually big claws.
Yep.
The Natural History Museum has said that this creature is actually only known from the forelimbs, and here's a picture of that.
That is Dinokairos. It's not just known from the forelimbs anymore. When was published in 2024?
Pretty
We
sloppy.
have most of the skeleton.
Dinokairos isn't even a therizinosaur, if I remember correctly.
Nope, it is an ornithomimosaurid.
Right. Yeah, this is just sloppy.
This is not necessarily a great pose, but here's the skeletal elements we have for Dinokairos.
In white,
We
right?
know what this thing looked like. Actually, here is... of course, it's on the Pterosaur Heresies, but at least it's a good image. Yeah, we have two individuals with a lot of the skeleton preserved.
And we also know Ornithomimosaurus had feathers. So.
Oh, we do indeed. We have several.
Of that, and they admit that the reconstructions that people are doing are mostly guesswork. Certainly no feathers, and yet.
Wait. When did we find? When did we find those new Dinocairids? I actually need to know this. Okay. He is 15 years out of date. He's 1.5 decades out of date with this. Because
and when was this made?
2024.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
Mackay. Oh, dear.
I mean, did you expect anything else?
Nope. There's feathers now, feathers on the top of the head and so on in this creature, in the model.
You can tell they're not the same arms.
Nope.
Like, so see the text in the background, is that... Okay, I don't think this is the specimen in the American Museum of Natural History. There is one there. They go from the ceiling to the floor. These arms are 10 feet long. And there's a big old plaque there saying Dinokairos. Nothing else has arms like this.
So it can make you a little bit frustrated sometimes when you're reading these things.
Like, excuse me, you just misspelled my favorite dinosaur.
Oh yeah, they did. Of course they did. And the bottom one's just light, obviously, as we've been going over for the past hour.
Yeah.
Now, regarding what you do actually find on dinosaur skins, they did in the fossil record, they did actually have this display, and note that it's very rare to find anything preserved on a dinosaur's body surface. So this particular one, which is in the group.
So actually, interesting thing to note. It's rare to find dinosaur skin in a lot of the common localities that have been plundered for centuries now. It turns out, with a modern knowledge of paleontology and geology, you can predict areas that would have a good environment for preserving details, and you go out there and you find them. I'm pretty sure that's how we found Utyrannus. And maybe Sinosauropteryx too, if I recall correctly. Like, it's been done recently, actually, I know, with some Cambrian animals.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, there is a Chinese Lagerstadt from the Cambrian. Just recently, a new massive carnivore was found there, or at least the remains of its mouth. And reconstructing it based on related organisms, it was probably bigger than Anomalocaris.
Okay, I think I know what you're talking about.
It looks terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
Group that supposedly evolved into birds, they found scales, of course, and dinosaurs.
And what
never
exactly
found
is the fallacy
feathers.
here?
And
Because just
Being
because you
incorrect.
find scales on some parts of the body doesn't necessarily mean other parts didn't have feathers, especially if you don't have a complete reconstruction here, as we do for other fossils.
Fair, but I will say for Carnotaurus at least, we have skin impressions for almost the entire body.
Oh yeah, yeah,
So we can,
yeah.
well, we can pretty definitively say it probably didn't have any feathers.
Right, yeah. I'm
but
just saying for others where we do have feathers, but also scales, like there's nothing prohibiting one versus the other.
yes. And also just Carnotaurus is a derived abelisaurid.
Yeah.
This group is about as far away from birds as you can get while still being a theropod.
Yep.
Like tyrannosaurids and allosaurids are closer to birds.
Right, yeah, like what Tommy Moore is saying here. We find scales on chicken feet. This is how we know they don't have feathers on the rest of their bodies.
Nope. Definitely not.
And here's the Carnosaur, and you can see how confident they are with some of the
Carnotaurus, not
Wait,
Carnosaur.
they say
statements they're making. It
Carnosaur.
as well. Now,
He said Carnosaur.
Yeah.
Very few people use Carnosaur anymore.
some of these theropods would have possessed feathers. Which I don't know what the term for that is in English, but when you say it's well known that they would have. Yeah. In fact, they say that the theropods possess feathers similar to the plumage of newborn chicks. So we went and looked up what the plumage looks like on newborn chicks, and you can see it there, and it's absolutely nothing like the
Sinosauropteryx.
Right. It's like we have that on the fossils too.
Ornithomimus and Utyrannus. Die long. Shall I go on?
limited protein breakdown that you do actually find in the fossil record. So all in all, it was a fairly frustrating thing to say, and that's what we'll always continue to push in our programs and everything that we do.
Frustrating for
Is that
you,
God created things
maybe
according to
because you're just denying reality at this point.
Well, no, they never admit to that.
Yeah. Well, we know for one reason or another why it's frustrating for them.
into their kind, and that in fact birds were created before dinosaurs in the creation week, so they certainly didn't evolve from them.
I had to calm Craig down quite a bit in that display. And the thing that was really intriguing, I mean, it was beautifully, give them full credit marks for display, but I think we would have seen maybe
exactly
a dozen
what
or so
Tommy
fossils,
Moore said.
just individual bones.
When reality doesn't match your book, reality must be mistaken.
Yeah. And
Unfortunately.
this is my main problem with creationists. Like, just, sorry, the world says something different. And, you know, the overwhelming majority of Christians can accept science. The overwhelming majority of most religious people can accept science. It's just this small subset of people.
And unfortunately happens to be very vocal.
Extremely vocal and very politically active.
Yeah.
Which is great for the American education system.
Yeah.
Like, if I have kids, I don't want to have to homeschool them, but depending on how things go, I might have to.
Yeah.
Bones or things like that, but the models were incredible, and that's what they were. They were fiberglass models, in the case of the big one, reinforced with steel rods, because they had a video there of them manufacturing this gigantic titanosaur with David Attenborough walking in, catching sight of it and saying, God! Well, that is his God. Nature, change, evolution.
Oh, come on. You're going to make fun of a 90-year-old Englishman for explaining God when he sees that? Like, it...
Does it honestly surprise you with how many straws they've had to pick so far in this video?
I think we're out of straws. I think they're just picking up the glass jar. Just... well, I think that's enough for tonight.
I think so.
Like I said earlier, I'm going
think
to
we've gotten
focus
the point.
on dinosaurs having feathers.
Yep.
I'll drop a better plan tomorrow. I should have time. Do you have a channel, Andrew? Do you doing anything people can see?
No, not really. Just going on other channels, giving my totally not expert opinion on anything. Yeah. Doing the best I can right now.
I wouldn't call myself an expert either, just a very interested person who happens to like dinosaurs and rocks.
Yeah, I was saying I may not. Yeah, that's the one thing I do have is curiosity about the world, which I hope to convey to other people one way or another, and I just hope more people are like that in general compared to some of the folks we react to.
Never lose it and always promote it.
Yep.
Like, actually, I'd like to I like to do this sometimes. I would like to recommend a channel for people to go check out after this. Might be good to fall asleep to. It's about geology, so fair enough if it knocks you out. Mark made me aware of this older dude who talks about geology. out in Wyoming, and he recently put out a video on giant petrified trees,
Ooh.
which was like he looked at it from a geological perspective, and it was well researched, really well put together. And honestly, from what I've seen of his channel, he's sorry, cat just fell off the bench next to me.
Oh.
It is Myron Cook. There's the link in the
okay.
chat. He seems like a very wholesome, very well-read guy. And yeah, I look forward to seeing more from him. Honestly, I've been wondering if thinking about reaching out and asking him some questions, because he apparently does a lot of work in an area of Wyoming that I did field work in. So, in fact, in another one of his videos, he covered a rock formation that I had to climb.
Oh. Was it a difficult climb? Or?
Yes, it was hell. It was this. If I mouse over it, it'll move. This thumbnail right here, the unusual sandstone monument. Not gonna spoil the video. I actually haven't seen it because I know what it is. It's a really interesting rock formation, and it was filled with rattlesnakes.
Oh.
We were out there for a day, and I scared away at least 5.
Good thing that
rock out there.
the snakes are more scared of you than you are of them.
I'm aware, but if I bite the snake, it's probably not going to be in mortal danger.
That's fair enough.
And man, yeah, I spent weeks doing field work in this general area too. It's really cool. If you want to look it up on Google Maps for whatever reason, these rocks in the background are called Sheep Mountain in the Bighorn Basin of Wyoming. If you can get him for a Q&A, tell me more, I would definitely watch that, though I might ask to join the stream. Yeah, I'd love to ask him about the Bighorn Basin and maybe see if he's interested in a Sorry, just a second. See if he's
maybe I was thinking of spiders. Yeah, some snakes are more aggressive than others.
Yeah. But see if he's interested in a little scavenger hunt. Because I got a sauropod that I would love to find the rest of if it's out there.
That'd be nice.
Yeah. This is Sheep Mountain over here, just north of Grable, Wyoming. Let's pop it in 3D view.
Yeah, I can see some rough terrain.
Not that one. Oh, it's somewhere in this general area. On
And
this
this
side.
is Wyoming, you said?
Yeah. Right near Grable, which is a small town. It's a very distinctive ridge. He actually flies over it with a... There it is. He flies over it with a drone.
Oh.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, here it is. This bugger.
That's unusual sandstone.
It is. It is very unusual for the environment. You can't really get a good grasp of how big it is from here. It's I want to say 50 to 100 meters high. Like, it's
Oh,
a
wow.
huge slab of stone.
Huh.
So for a bit of reference, all the rock layers over here are slanted towards the right, or well, they're slanted up towards the right. So the stuff over here is older, and the stuff over here is younger. I believe this is part of the Morrison Formation.
Oh.
And so when all this was buried, all this would have formed a sort of mound over this mountain. So if we go to the other side, if I can find it somewhere, there's somewhere out here, there's a continuation of that ridge. Just popping in and out of the rock. Actually, I'm not going to spoil it. Go check out the video if you're interested in figuring out what it is. It's neat geology. Yep. I'll just say that I'm ready for bed.
Yep.
That's it. Yeah, thanks for joining, Andrew. Thank you earlier. Anderson, I think Caden popped on for a couple minutes.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, we got a Beamsy. Hello. But yeah, everybody have a good night or day, wherever the heck you are.
And keep learning.
Yeah, never stop.
Especially if it's about dinosaurs.
Oh, wait a sec. Beamsy says they found something. Ooh, Beamsy, share the pictures. Share the pictures, Beamsy. Here's the StreamYard link if you want to hop in. Just share the pictures on Discord. I'll pop them up if you're willing to share. I guess for people who don't know, Beamsy is on a little expedition. You're on your phone. That's her. If you just share the pictures on Discord, I can pop them up if you're willing to share. Beamsy's on a little expedition with some folks from a museum. That's fair. He can't get on his Discord right now. Later then. He's on an expedition to hunt for minerals and fossils with a local museum.
Oh, nice.
So he's hoping to find a opalized plesiosaur, which one was found at that locality. So it's actually a decent chance.
Well, that'd be cool.
You forgot your laptop at home? You're going to be out there for like 2 more weeks. Beamsy, just get Discord on your phone. It's not hard.
Well, pictures will have to wait till a future stream, I guess.
Fair. Okay, Beamsy, do you have Skype? Do you want me to share you my account on MySpace? Can just fax it to me. Fax it to me. Oh. Good night, everybody. This is going to keep going.